All right, welcome everyone to the Dove Valley Community Coalition Facebook Live Candidate Forum. I'm Susanna Woody, your president of the Dove Valley Community Coalition, and today we will be speaking with candidates who will be on the November ballot, as well as advocates for both sides of Prop A and B. Joining me today is the Dove Valley Community Coalition executive team, and I'd like them to take some time to introduce themselves. Tina Byron, let's start with you, please.
Hi, my name is Tina Byram, and I'm the Vice President of the Del Valley Community Coalition, and I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. Ms. Pat King? Oh, you're on mute, Pat.
Hi, my name is Pat King, and I'm on the executive board team of the Del Valley Community Coalition. I'm also a Del Valley resident, and I'm also an advocate for the Del Valley community. Good morning.
All right, Roy Woody.
Hey, good morning. My name is Roy Woody. I'm the secretary for the Del Valley Community Coalition. Welcome to our first forum.
All right, Alyssa Rodriguez.
Good morning. I'm Elisa Rodriguez, the Community Membership Coordinator for the Del Valley Community Coalition. Happy to be here and see everybody.
Yeah. Well, normally we would be waiting for Facebook Live and getting people to share, but Facebook Live is not working for us today. So we're just going to record it and then upload it to our Facebook page and to YouTube. Before we begin, I'd like to thank all the candidates and organizations who have taken time out of their campaign to be with us today. I know that, less than 30 days before election, everyone's super busy. So thank you so much for being here. I also want to talk about why we're doing this forum. DVCC is a nonprofit, so we will not be endorsing, but we did want to give a community a chance to hear from candidates that will be on the November ballot and allow them an avenue to show us why they think that we should vote for them. So we want the candidates to talk about local issues. We want them to acknowledge how they will be addressing those issues affecting Southeast Austin, Southeast Austin, and Travis County. Each candidate will be given 7 to 10 minutes to introduce themselves and their campaigns. Candidates will then be asked a couple of questions pertaining to the positions and given 2 minutes to respond. All questions will be the same for every candidate in their respective sought out positions. Our first guest will be from Del Valley ISD School Board Trustee Single Member District 2 candidates. Today we have Damian Pantoja and David Albert. Damian, we'll start with you. Can you please tell us about yourself, your campaign, and why you think you will best represent Del Valley?
Hi, good morning. Buenos dias. Thank you for having me this morning, and thank you for this informative session for our community members. So I do greatly appreciate it. Again, my name is Damian Pantoja. Me llamo Damian Pantoja. I'm a proud Del Valley graduate and a native Austinite. I was born and raised in the Metropolis neighborhood as a son to an immigrant family. Growing up, I had developed a passion for a sense of our community and understood the importance of being educated by public education. It was because of my upbringing in my community that I have aspired to blossom where I'm rooted. While I was a student in Del Valley, I learned a valuable education by recognizing various approaches to classroom learning implemented by my teachers based on the various needs of my peers. As a current Del Valley trustee, I have earned the community's confidence to ensure that I continue supporting the students' diverse goals. I am here to be representation of my district and remind our students that we can have a seat at the table. I am proof that our teachers, our Del Valley teachers and staff have success stories. I am proof that our working immigrant families in our district have success stories. I am proof that Del Valley students can attain and reach whatever dream they have. I took this upon myself because I am a product, not just of my community, Metropolis and Riverside, but I'm a product to Del Valley ISD. This is why I continue to serve and work for the Del Valley community. I am running for re-election this November. I believe representation matters. It matters to have someone on the board who was educated in Del Valley ISD, someone who understands what young people experience in school today, what immigrant families are facing, what LGBTQ students are also facing, That representation matters when it's time for the board to think about the decisions we make for our students, our schools, and our community. I am the only serving trustee who has this type of representation. Our students need role models that are a reflection of them, not of someone else. I believe the future of Del Valle is our students, and I pledge to continue to fight and ensure our students have the best educational experiences and opportunities. So I'm humbly asking the community for your continued support to ensure that Del Valle is the best district in Texas. And to learn more about me, please visit www.damianpantoja.com. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Damien. David, let's go ahead and please tell us about yourself, your campaign, and why you think you're the person to represent Del Valle ISD.
Sure. We have 10 minutes, right?
Yes, you have 10 minutes.
Okay. Damien took a bit less than that, so I wasn't sure. All right. First, I want to thank the Del Valle Community Coalition for hosting this forum and putting our race, which is at the end of the ballot, at the very beginning of your forum today. That says how important this sort of a race is. And, because at the end of the ballot, we often get overlooked. But there is actually a remarkable connection from this race from the remarkable connection from the very top of the ballot to our school board race at the end. In 2016, 63 million Americans voted for an entirely unqualified reality TV star for president. What does this demonstrate? Why does that matter to a school board race? It matters because it demonstrates the massive failures of our educational system at teaching civics and at teaching critical thinking. To be clear, I want to be clear about who I am and what I stand for. I am running this campaign as a progressive Democrat. I am running this campaign as an advocate for unions and workers. I urge you to, when you vote, to vote for Joe Biden at the top of the ticket and every Democrat on the ballot after that. And then after you get to the city, after you go through the city propositions, not to forget about our race. Our schools are facing extraordinary challenges these days. All those challenges, of course, were there before COVID, and COVID didn't create those challenges, those problems, but it brought them to the surface. And we have to face these challenges head on. In order to do that, we need people with experience. I have a remarkable level of experience. I am an educator. I have a PhD in government. I teach government at ACC, which means I very often get students from Del Valle who have graduated from the high school and have moved on to college. So in addition to being an educator, I'm a scholar, a union organizer, a political activist, and a citizen lobbyist who has spent endless days at the legislature lobbying for public education. All of that experience provides me with a unique set of skills that is needed in a position like this. Let me lay out a bit of my agenda of what I support, because I believe it's really important for a candidate to tell you what they stand for and what they intend to do in terms of their goals. I am going to say very clearly that I am against the right-wing agenda of charter schools that have been coming into our district. I'm against voucher programs that the legislature has tried to pass and will continue to try to pass. I'm against the over-reliance on standardized testing, and standardized testing that has been used to evaluate teachers is a huge mistake. As are the A through F grades that the legislature mandated. None of that is good for our students. None of that is good for our schools. None of that is good for our employees. What should we be doing? We should be investing our resources in our teachers and employees. They have been the frontline workers, the heroes of this pandemic. We need to make sure that they are well-trained and well-compensated so they can better serve our students as servant leaders and ensure that our students will be successful. they, because it's interconnected, you see. People forget that our teachers and their success is interconnected to our students' success. It sounds simple, but it's so important and it's often forgotten. And as an educator myself, I understand the role of educators in the classroom. And I mean, what am I doing? What am I spending my days doing right now? I'm teaching Zoom classes. And boy, it's an experience to be teaching online. And frankly, what I'm doing with college students, it's so much more challenging with younger students. I mean, I can't even imagine trying to teach elementary school students via Zoom. So anyway, I think we'll get to more on COVID and the reaction to that. So what it comes down to is the future of our democracy and our economy depend on our public schools. Let me tell you a bit more about some of my priorities, some of the things I want to do. I mentioned the legislative experience. That's really important because the state's going to face a massive budget crisis. And the legislature, the Republicans in the legislature are going to come after our public schools and our public school budgets. And we need people who will be up there every day going to committee hearings and meeting with legislators and fighting for public school funding along with the teachers and unions from around the state. And those are important skills and necessary ones for our trustees. So that's going to be something that's going to be very important to me, to be working to protect the funding. We had, the last time this happened was in 2011 when they came after our budget and they cut it, and districts around the state had to let teachers go. It's going to happen again. We made some gains in the last session, and that meant that teachers got some pay raises, but they're going to come to take that back. So another thing that's going to be real important that I can tell you about from my experience at ACC. Back in 2014, they passed a bond for ACC that banks some land down in the Del Valley area. That land is to be used to build a workforce center, but it's kind of just been sitting there. And I'm going to be pushing my friends at ACC to do another bond so that they can build what they plan to build in our community, a workforce center. That will be the next leg on the educational ladder for our students. So that I think is something that's really important. We need a modern curriculum that prepares our students for the world they're going into. That means a modern history curriculum that includes stuff like the 1619 Project. It means a modern science curriculum that is addressing climate change, that is addressing evolution. A modern sex education curriculum is absolutely necessary. AISD has been developing that, and we definitely need that here. So those are some of the things. And then of course, Tesla. Tesla is now coming in, and that's a decision that's been made. And what I would really work very hard at doing is holding them responsible, making sure that they meet the conditions that have been laid down. So, because frankly, they have a bad reputation when it comes to laborers and workers. But I'm hoping that they will be a responsible employer and responsible corporate citizen in our community. Let me also tell you about something else that I did for Del Valley. Last year, there was the bond was passed, so that was a really big deal to get that passed to start to rebuild several schools. I was the treasurer of the Friends of Del Valley PAC. We were the ones who raised the money and made sure that the word got out how important this bond was, and it passed overwhelmingly. I believe it was 3-1, and it passed in a low turnout election where other bonds in Central Texas failed. And it passed because several of us got involved and made the effort and fought to pass that bond. Currently, I sit on the oversight committee to make sure that the money is spent well. So that's just some of my experience with Del Valley. Other than that, I will just tell you that if you need more information on my campaign and the things I stand for, you should just go to my website, because I have an extensive platform there of everything that I am running on, and as well as more on my background. And and I should also add, I've been in this community for a long time. I've been living. I came here as a graduate student, and I lived along the Riverside corridor. I've been in this area since 1996 on the Riverside corridor, and in my current location in Del Valley. So I've been in Del Valley for 6 years and the Riverside corridor for about 24 years. Anyway, if you need more information, go to my website, davidfordelvalley.com. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, David. Now we have a couple of questions for both of you. You'll have 2 minutes to answer them. Please stick to the time we give you. We will flash countdown cards to tell you when your time is up. First question, we'll start with Damien. The prison to pipeline has been said to start in the school system. This is a major concern for Black and Latino children. Since Black and Latino children make up more than 94% of Del Valle ISD, what have you done or what will you do to end this process for students of Del Valle?
Right, this is a great question. So thank you for asking. As a Brown individual and as a Brown student who was in Del Valle ISD, I saw many of my friends, peers, and classmates get arrested for being kids, for being students. So it was heartbreaking to see a student, a 16-year-old student, 12-year-old student get put in the system for just being a kid. So this hits home a lot. After careful consideration earlier this year with our community, and taking into account that the parents that spoke in comments and during public forum earlier this year, talking about how they are going to take their kids out should we as a district remove any type of policing, we knew the safety and security of our community was important, not just to our parents, but to our staff and teachers. So the board members and I, we voted in to create our own Del Valle Security and Del Valle Security Force. What that means and what that does is that we as a district create the policies and practices that protect not just our students and faculty, but that is also an extension to the community. Again, we as a district create the policies and practices, meaning those officers report to the chief of staff, to the chief, that chief reports to superintendent, that superintendent reports to the board of trustees. Again, we have oversight of that organization. It's no longer being handled by a third party or outside who was constantly just arresting our students to meet their agenda or someone else's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. First of all, I think what they've done with the police force and bring that in-house is a good first step. I think that was a good move. But the real solutions are deeper. The real solutions are making sure that our students are workforce ready and college ready. And that really means upgrading and improving the quality of the educational product that we're delivering. And I've already spoken to changes to the curriculum. We need to be improving our teaching. That requires retaining our teachers. We have a very high turnover rate of teachers, which greatly harms the quality of the education that we're delivering. So how do you retain teachers? You improve their pay, you improve their benefits, you make sure that they're respected and that they're treated with dignity. So all of that will help. And then, as I noted earlier, we need to create new opportunities. TESOL will create some of those opportunities. So the idea that I mentioned before, building a workforce center in the community to provide education in career readiness in technical fields. Our students are going to need those opportunities. And, as Del Valle is going to change a lot with Tesla, it's going to be a very different place in a few years. And we have to be ready and we have to meet the future. The bond was part of that. But if we can do all of that, we can stop the prison pipeline. And that's the best thing we can do for our kids. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is going to be, what are your thoughts on how Del Valle ISD handled the COVID crisis or pandemic? Damien, let's start with you.
Thank you. Great question again. We as a district have done a fantastic job. As a trustee, our biggest concern was not only the safety of our students, but also the safety to our teachers and staff. So when the pandemic mandated remote learning in March, it was important to me and the board that the district provided equitable learning experiences to students and teachers. This meant that we had to allocate funds to purchase technology and resources that support our families and students, such as Wi-Fi equipment, one-on-one devices being issued out, and also continuation of meal services, because we're in a food desert as a school district. So we needed to ensure that our kids are being fed, not just through the week, but also into the weekend. We as a district, I as a trustee did approve pandemic pay to additionally fund the teams that made preparing and delivering these meals and getting material into the hands of our students so they can continue engaging in a learning environment. With the continuation of COVID-19, we as a board had time to reflect on the impact in the spring and be better equipped and prepared to serve our students in the current school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien. David?
I think the board's actually done a pretty good job. I mean, under very difficult circumstances, it's a nearly impossible challenge. Now it's going to get even more complicated as we're going to, as starting this week, students are starting to come back to school, and we have to protect the students and the teachers, and that's going to be difficult, and it's requiring a lot of changes to the teaching environment. So there is one area where I am concerned that they didn't make the right move, and I think Damien alluded to it, but I was a little confused because they voted against hazard pay. That vote came up in April, and it was for additional hazard pay for the bus drivers and food delivery, and there was a 4-2 vote against it that Damien voted with the majority to oppose hazard pay. And I didn't understand that, honestly, because those were our frontline workers and the idea that we wouldn't give them, I think it was double pay, was surprising to me. Anyway, there's a lot more that needs to be done. And as an educator who's in the classroom, I have the experience to really know what needs to be done to create safe learning environments, supportive learning environments, to make sure that our students can get through this difficult time. And okay, so I think I couldn't quite see that sign, Roy, but I think, oh, it's 30 seconds. Anyway, that's fine. All right, so thank you all. I appreciate having had this opportunity to speak with you all today. And again, if you can go to my website, David for delvalle.com. All right, take care.
All right, hold on. We have 1 minute closing remarks. So Damien, let's go ahead and start with you. You have 1 minute for your closing remarks.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Damien Pantoja. I'm your current Del Valle trustee representing single member District 2. I'm humbly asking you to to join me in the support to continue to ensure that Del Valle is the best district in Central Texas, not just in Central Texas, but in Texas. To learn more about me and what I've done and where you can help with this fight, please visit damienpantoja.com. Again, damienpantoja.com. And I'm humbly asking each and every one of you to continue to support me as your current trustee. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien. And David, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Sure. Well, I'll just say again that it would be an honor to serve you as a trustee. I, I, I care. I've dedicated my life to education and it's that experience as an educator that really is necessary on a board like this. Uh, we need people who have educational experience, legislative experience, and uh, and it's difficult. It's a difficult job. I don't know if people know, it's an unpaid job. That's right. We're running for an office that we don't get paid for. But um, our future depends upon having good schools and good school boards. Uh, as I've said before, the future of our democracy and our economy depend on our public schools. I hope you'll give me the opportunity to be a servant leader and to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank you guys for joining. Before we go to the next group, I want to say that I'm going to constantly be trying to get this to share to Facebook Live. We will have it recorded, so we will be posting it to YouTube and to Facebook as soon as we get done here. Yeah, so sorry about that. I don't know what's going on, but I'll be working on it in the background. All right, thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Damien and David. Next, we have candidates running for City Council Member District 2, Alex Stringer, Casey Ramos, David Chinkanchan, and Vanessa Fuentes. Alex, we will start with you. Please tell us about yourself, your campaign, and why you think you are the person to represent Del Valley at City Hall.
Sure. Thank you very much. My name is Alex Stranger, and I'm an entrepreneur who drives a pedicab. I am literally the working man who our, quote unquote, progressive city council claims to care so much about. Yet everything that they have been doing, especially in light of the pandemic, from the shutdowns, from trying to raise taxes by close to 25% while we're in the midst of a gigantic recession, from how they're enabling homelessness with their policies without actually offering real solutions to help them, to the way in which they defunded APD. What was that? To the way in which they defunded APD, to the fact that they're pushing a land code based on urban density while we're in the midst of a pandemic. And everybody knows that urban density is literally how you spread global pandemics, to the fact that we're trying to spend billions of dollars on a rail system that's going to be obsolete and outdated by the time it gets built. And by the fact that the city has offered no real meaningful aid to the businesses and people like in the service industry most affected by the pandemic, like the live music venues, our bars, our restaurants, our bartenders, our door guys, our musicians, et cetera, et cetera. Even me driving a pedicab, our shop owner still has to pay permitting fees for a bunch of bikes that we were not even really able to use right now. So, our city claims to care so much about, working people, and they espouse all these progressive values, and they're doing the opposite of what they're espousing through their policies. So these are issues that need to be addressed. I also, since we have a lot of time, I want to talk about some of these solutions that I would like to go into. And so, look, we need a more affordable, we need a more accessible, we need a more accountable Austin. We need to double the homestead tax exemption to 20%. We need to do whatever we can to keep our tax rate at a sustainable level. And I also believe that landlords should have to disclose in writing why they are raising your rent, so that people can see the correlation between rising rents and skyrocketing property taxes, and it'll foster more active involvement within our local government. So that's another thing that needs to be addressed. I also feel as though we need to start providing comprehensive financial education to people in the district so that they can best benefit from our economic system and ultimately be able to actually stay here and not get pushed out by all of these development interests. And we should be we need to start working with people in AISD and also Del Valle ISD to start teaching real financial education and understand stock market participation, understand like what a PE ratio is, how to read a balance sheet, what a cash flow statement is, all of these things to actually create a financially independent next generation of people who can stay in the district and, you know, benefit from the growth that we're experiencing. I also think that our developers need to start building affordable housing units at 30 to 50% MFI, and those units, and this should be if they want to waive the density bonus fee, those units should be dedicated specifically for people that make up the backbone of our city. You know, artists, musicians, students, teachers, healthcare workers, city employees, blue collar professionals, et cetera, et cetera. And we need to offer 30 to 50% MFI for those specific people that make up the lifeblood of our city so they can stay in Austin and we preserve our character. You know, when it comes to homelessness, we need compassionate solutions to this problem without enabling vagrancy. Because we shouldn't go back to the way the camping stuff was before. But what we're doing now is not working when our homeless population's increased by over 40% within the past year. Like, that's not helping anybody. That's hurting all of us, even our homeless. And what we should do is we need to offer financial incentives for businesses to do cleanups, food drives, clothes drives, et cetera. And also use these cleanups as a means of it for diversion programs. If you get caught, like, you know, with for a low-level drug offense or some petty, like, silly misdemeanor crime or whatnot, you should be given the opportunity to clean up a couple of homeless camps for your record, for the case to be expunged and dismissed. And you could even work with the school board to help people to do that with kids who don't want to go to ALC or whatnot. So I think that that's a solution that should be addressed. We should be utilizing our parking meters. Every time you park your car, you should be able to donate whatever amount of money you choose to a homeless service organization that's committed to actually helping people get off the streets and do job training and rehabilitation and all of these measures and whatnot. So I think that these are issues that we need to start actually looking towards if we actually care about the homeless stuff. And then our policing, that's another problem. You know, like, we took $170 million from our police department, right? And not a single penny of that money is actually going to help people that are most in need from the pandemic. You know, like, nothing is going to our bars, our live music venues, our musicians, the people in the service industry who are literally unable to make a living because of Mayor Adler's decision to shut our economy down. So, you know, we're misallocating the funds from how we defunded. I also think that we cut the wrong programs. We're the fastest growing city in the United States, or one of them, and we probably should have more officers, and we need better trained officers. And that being said, we also need meaningful police reform for the safety of both the community as well as our police officers. We need that, you know, and we need police misconduct should be investigated by an independent, nonpartisan review board. What else? Our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and proficiency in grappling need to be mandatory. And it needs to be done on a consistent basis to help reduce the use of excessive and deadly force amongst police officers when they're in confrontational situations, and also make them more accountable for the job that they do. And I also think that our police need to be EMT certified, the same way firefighters and paramedics are. You know, I was downtown the night Garrett Foster died, and it took over 20 minutes for the cops to administer care to this guy. I mean, it took over 20 minutes for an ambulance to come, and the cops are not able to administer care to Garrett. And, you know, Garrett Foster's not with us anymore as a result of all that. So, like, you know, we need meaningful, comprehensive solutions that are actionable, that will actually help bridge the divide and heal, you know, the economic wounds that we're dealing with. So, I mean, these are issues that I really want to bring forth and bring to the table. And I'm going to close with this, right? Like, you know, I'm not a politician, right? And I don't want to be, but there are a glaring set of issues that we need to address, and we need to address immediately. Okay. And there's also another candidate who I am running against, who feels very similarly to me on a lot of what's going on. And he's very approachable. He's very relatable, and he's been involved with his community ever since he was born. And so, that being said, I'm going to use this opportunity. I'm officially withdrawing from the city council race, and I am fully pledging my support to Casey Ramos from here on in. You know, me and Casey, we are the two most reasonable and we are the two most relatable candidates in the entire city of Austin right now. I firmly believe this, and we need to be united in order to help Austin change in a way that's actually beneficial for the people that live here. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I look forward to doing my part and using my voice and using my platform to help Casey get elected, because Casey Ramos, honestly, is going to be the candidate and the person who's going to help put a lot of the ideas, a lot of these reasonable, non-divisive, actionable ideas into play. And I really am excited to work with him in order to help get this done. So thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Alex. And next we have Casey Ramos. Casey, please tell us about yourself, your campaign, and why you think you are the person to represent Del Valley at City Hall.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you, Alex, and thank you for the rest of the people for allowing me to be here and voice my opinion. And I mean, I was really ecstatic to hear that Alex is supporting me and that he feels like I'm the best candidate, because I feel like I am the best candidate. And like he was saying, I've been involved in community activism, or not community advocacy. We're not activists. We're servants of the civic of the city. So I have been born and raised in the district for my entire life. My mother, Teresa Ramos, was a community liaison at Smith Elementary for 3 decades. And that's really where I got my start. And I learned how to give back to the community. And through that time, as a student of Del Valle ISD and as a student of AISD, I've come across great mentors and teachers like Mr. David Lopez, who is was the vice principal of Del Valle High School. He's now the chief of staff, chief of police for the Del Valle ISD. He was a great mentor. Coach Leanne Saddam, the PE coach and longtime softball and basketball coach at Del Valle High School. Francis Maldonado, who's my 5th grade teacher. Of course, my mother, Teresa Ramos, and many others, including Mario Palacios, who was also the vice principal of Daly Middle School. He was my he was also my Del Valle Middle School football coach. And so I've just been fortunate to have been blessed to have grown up throughout the district, not just in Del Valle ISD, but also AISD. And even when I was a student, even before I attended Del Valle ISD, I went to private school on South First and Ditmar on the very west side of our district. And it was a private school, small private school called Christ Community Christian School. And there I was instilled the work ethic and the values that it takes to become a candidate or a viable candidate, and somebody that's going to make decisions on behalf of the people and not on behalf of special interests. And so as I got older, I went back to work for Del Valle ISD and AISD under many of those great teachers and mentors. I was a colleague of course, Mr. Lopez, and was integral in giving my advice and what he thought, how we should go about implementing the Del Valle ISD police. I went to go work for Mario Palacios in the STEP program at Daly Middle School. I was a literacy teacher in the Literacy First program at Smith Elementary. I was also a long-term substitute at Hillcrest for a number of years. And on top of that, I've just done many things on my own, even becoming an elite professional boxer, going to school at ACC on ACC Riverside and ACC South Austin, and eventually making my way to St. Edward's University. I still found time to help found organizations that have helped thousands of individuals here in the city limits. One of those is Dove Springs Proud, and we just celebrated our 7-year anniversary yesterday, and that's a huge milestone, taking where we came from as an organization, as a community. We started the organization to hold accountability and accessibility through our elected officials, and I believe that we are doing a great job doing that. Many elected officials and many candidates seek their endorsement every year, and I've also helped to start Community Not Commodity, which has helped to garner 30,000 signatures to halt the process of the rewrite of our land development codes, also known as Code Next, which had, as Alex mentioned, density bonus programs that are not effective and that will not help our community. So it's just things like this that I've been a part of throughout my entire life that I've been blessed, that I feel that qualify me to write and recommend policies to the city of Austin and to the people. And it will be very effective. And that's all I have to say. If you want to learn a little bit more about my candidacy, you can go to KC or D2.com. And also, excuse me, it's the number 4, the letter D, number 2.com. And you'll learn a little bit more about my history and the deep roots of and the deep connections that I have within the community, within the city, and mostly how I feel about what the direction that we need to go as a city. We are becoming a city that is less and less family oriented. Children are having to be displaced throughout the city limits. Excuse me, outside of the city limits constantly every year. And my goal is to reverse that trend, implement right to return programs, right to stay programs. Another policy that I have recommended through the People's Plan, through community, not commodity. So these are all just policies that I feel that qualify me, or excuse me, policy recommendations that I feel qualify me to represent our people to the best of my ability. I have deep connections. I have deep roots. I have relationships that I've built throughout the district. As I said, I have worked with many people, many great mentors, and still work alongside them. Just yesterday, I worked with Mrs. Rebecca Gomez, the community liaison, to deliver food care boxes to residents who are in need right now, and that will continue. That's a trend that won't stop, and that will continue. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Casey. Next, we have David Chinkanchin. David, please tell us about yourself, your campaign, and why you think you're the person to represent Bell Valley at City Hall.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to say,
Sorry, David, 1 second. I'm sorry. Can we, Alyssa, can you please go over the rules again, just so everyone is aware of what's going on? Because I think some candidates came in late. I'm sorry, David.
Yes, so right now each candidate is having about 10 minutes to speak and then introducing yourself and telling us about your campaign. And then afterwards, we are going to have a couple of questions and each of you will get 2 minutes to respond. And then each of you will have a 1-minute closing remark.
Thank you. Sorry about that, David.
That's all right. Thank you again. I was just saying, I'm really glad to be here. Thank you guys for providing this forum and an opportunity for us to connect with Del Valley neighbors and residents. And, you know, Del Valley has always been really near and dear to my heart. I've had the opportunity to go and speak to Del Valley ISD elementary school kids for Career Day. I had the chance to work as an election worker at the Del Valley Community Center. In 2016, when I was working at City Hall, I was able to advocate for improvements in funding for Ross Road. And I know I'm really grateful for the work that some of y'all and a lot of our neighbors in Del Valley have done to advocate for improvements on that road. And I'm excited that it's included in the proposal that's on this November ballot. In 2016, the work that we did helped make sure that we were able to fund preliminary engineering for that road so that it could be more shovel ready and we could include it in the next bond. And I'm glad to see progress on that. But just to introduce myself, my name is David Chinkanchin, and I'm really excited to be running in District 2 to represent our community because I was raised in Southeast Austin. And this is the community that I have always known and loved and respected. And it's the community that, as many of you know, has been underserved, underrepresented for so long and faces so many challenges. But despite that, it's remained vibrant and resilient, and it's given me and others so much. Thanks to the sacrifices that my parents made, thanks to support from my family, from bilingual educators, from staff at the rec center and the library, and community leaders throughout Southeast Austin, I was able to realize my dream of attending the University of Texas at Austin and becoming the first person in my family to earn a college degree. And since my time at the university, I've volunteered, worked, organized, fought for progressive causes and candidates. Since that time, I have worked to create more opportunities for the children and the families that are still facing many of the same challenges that we faced when we were growing up, and who face even bigger challenges that have arisen as our city has continued to grow. And so I've had the opportunity to work at City Hall moving forward affordable housing and public transportation initiatives. I've also had the opportunity to serve as a board member of my labor union, AFSCME 1624. Like I said before, I've had the chance to work on a lot of campaigns for progressive candidates and causes. And most recently, I had the opportunity to work with Constable George Morales in the Precinct 4 office in Travis County, making sure that our hard to count communities, including in Del Valle, were counted in the 2020 census so that we can get the resources that we need and to serve and the political representation that's due to our community as well. Of course, that was happening as the pandemic was really hitting our neighborhoods. And so I spent my time there working on providing food, protective equipment like masks and hand sanitizers and other vital resources to our families in Southeast Austin that are being disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. And we have to ask ourselves why it is that we're being disproportionately impacted. And the reason is pretty straightforward. We have faced decades and decades of institutional neglect, which have left us vulnerable with pre-existing conditions like housing instability, food insecurity, lack of access to quality healthcare, childcare, and economic opportunity. Many of our family members, our neighbors, our friends, are frontline essential workers who are being asked to go risk their lives, their health, and their safety to provide essential services for our community, but they're not being given the essential protections that they need and deserve. And so I'm running to do all that I can to better the lives of working families in our community and to make sure that Southeast Austin has its own voice when decisions about our health, our safety, and our quality of life are being made at City Hall. I'm running to build an Austin for all, where every single person and every single family has the opportunity to pursue their dreams and achieve their potential. And when I talk about these issues like food insecurity and workers' rights, these aren't issues that I'm just using as a talking point for our city council campaign. These are the issues that I have been working on for my entire life. Bettering the lives of working families is the reason that I am in public service. And for the work that we have done over the years, we have earned the endorsement of the Austin Chronicle, of the Workers' Defense Action Fund, of the Central Labor Council, which includes labor unions like AFSCME, LIUNA, IBW, Education Austin, and more. We've also earned the endorsement of every single local Democratic club that has endorsed in our race, including the South Austin Democrats, the Austin Tejano Democrats, the Black Austin Democrats, the Austin Environmental Democrats, and others. We've also earned the endorsement of the Austin Firefighter Association and the support of just so many active community leaders throughout Southeast Austin. And so if y'all share that vision of creating that Austin where the rights, the dignity, the humanity of all people are recognized, where everyone has the opportunity that they deserve, where everyone is afforded that, where Southeast Austin gets the resources, the infrastructure, the investments that are long overdue, then I ask you to please support our campaign. You can find out more about us on our website. It's david4d2.com. And thank you again for having me here.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Vanessa Fuentes. Vanessa, please tell us about yourself, your campaign, and why you think you're the person to represent Del Valle at City Council.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Vanessa Fuentes, and I'm running to serve our community on Austin City Council District 2. I'm a progressive community health advocate, and I've spent my career fighting for equity in every boardroom, organization, and workplace that I've been a part of. I've worked on policy at the local, state, and federal levels, helping mobilize the everyday Texan for healthier communities. I'm the daughter of an immigrant and a military veteran. I come from a working class family where my father, Carlos, was a hardworking electrician, and my mom, Lupe, works at Walmart. I'm the youngest of 7 siblings and a proud first-generation college graduate. Hook 'em horns. I know that there's a game going on right now. I'm the only candidate in my race who's worked in the private sector, in government, and for nonprofit, making me the most well-rounded. I'm also very involved in our Del Valle community. I first got involved with Del Valle long before I ever put roots down here in Southeast Austin. First as a volunteer with the Food and Tummies program at Beatty Elementary and Hillcrest Elementary. I volunteered at Catch Night at many of DV schools throughout the year. I've also volunteered with Coats for Kids many times. It's one of my favorite volunteer events because it hits close to home. I serve on the Del Valley Community Coalition, which is now a certified nonprofit. So congratulations to the team. I also served as president of the Friends of Del Valley PAC, which is the first of its kind here in Austin, where we mobilized a Get Out the Vote coordinated effort for the most recent Del Valley ISD school bond. We had one of the highest affirmative passage rates for any school bond in the entire state. And there were many people who said we shouldn't move forward with the school bond in light of recent changes with the school district. But we knew what we've always known about our community, which is if not now, then when? And when equity is on the line, it's important that we do what is right. When the pandemic hit, I rolled up my sleeves and I got to work, not as a paid staff member, but as a volunteer. I helped organize regular meal distributions to help our neighbors in need in Del Valley, and helped organize our first PPE distribution at the Del Valley High School, where we handed out thousands of masks to protect our community. Earlier this summer, I joined Del Valley community leader Tony Maldonado for a Facebook Live video where we drew attention to the dangerous Ross Road. We wanted to show why we need the critical funding that's also on the ballot this year to expand Ross Road. And we also drew attention to some of the sidewalks around our schools that desperately need repair. Throughout my career, I've seen firsthand how our systems are designed to include some voices and leave out others. This has only made me work harder. For the past 6 years, I worked at the American Heart Association, where I helped pass life-saving policy, including safe routes to schools funding, raising the tobacco sales age to 21, fighting for smoke-free air, and newborn congenital heart screenings. In the fight for justice, we must first recognize that our city is one of the most economically, racially, and educationally segregated cities in the nation. We stand as divided today as nearly a century ago, when in 1928, our city master plan racially segregated Austin. For far too long, our Del Valley community has been left out of conversations and forgotten about. There's a reason why we don't have full service hospitals east of 35. There's a reason why our food deserts are in the Eastern Crescent. The fact is that due to decades of institutional neglect, our Black and Brown communities who live east of 35 have a life expectancy of 10 years less than Austinites who live west of 35. And that's why I got into this fight. Not only for the economic divide, but because of the health divide. COVID-19 has exposed what we already know. Our neighbors in South and Southeast Austin are not getting our fair share of resources we deserve. At the end of the day, we are all Austinites and we all deserve a fair chance. The well-being of our community is one of my top priorities. And as someone who'll be raising a family in Southeast Austin and whose kids will go to Del Valley schools, I care deeply about making an Austin that is more livable for all. I have plans on my website, vanessafораustin.com, that detail exactly how I hope to tackle the housing and displacement crisis we face, how I will provide proactive community engagement, my bold new approach to community health, and how I will boost small business. As we look to our local leaders to help us get through the pandemic, I believe that my experience in public health policy, combined with my record in community leadership right here in Del Valley, best positions me to serve our community and to take on the status quo. I've been endorsed by the Austin American Statesman, EMS Association, and Texas Latina List, but the only endorsement that truly matters and that I care about is the endorsement of right here in our Del Valley community. That's what matters. Thank you all so much. My name is Vanessa Fuentes, and I'm looking to serve our community.
Thank you, Vanessa. All right, now we have a couple of questions. Each of you, again, will have 2 minutes to answer. Please stick to the time. We will give you guys a warning, and we're just going to go ahead and go in the same order as you just spoke, but I will cue everybody. So the first question is, healthcare has been on everyone's mind as of late, and the coronavirus has exacerbated the many problems. What will you commit to doing to ensure that there are no more delays with the building of a permanent healthcare facility in East Travis County? So Alex, you're up first.
All right, sure. Thank you. Look, here's the thing, okay? when we agree to let people build certain things within our communities, there needs to be a timeline before we agree to a contract, A. And B, we spent $9 million over budget this past year on healthcare and public health. And then if you look at the new budget for this year, nothing has changed at all whatsoever. And we're in a pandemic and nobody knows how long it's going to last. And nobody's going to know if we're going to have future pandemics, and we're doing nothing to actually prepare for any of that stuff. So we need to reassess our budget, and we should be budgeting more money to actually build more hospitals and healthcare facilities, especially with coronavirus. The only reason that we supposedly shut down, right? The only justification for it, even though I don't agree with it whatsoever, is to not overwhelm the hospital. So it would make sense that we should probably be building more hospitals ASAP. That should be a priority, so that in case another pandemic occurs, we are more likely to actually not let it disrupt our normal day-to-day lives, So there's that. And I also think that we got to do a better job of teaching people how to sustainable farm and offer incentives to grocery stores to put healthy food on the shelves, because at the end of the day, 94% of people who died of this virus, they had serious pre-existing conditions, and we got to incentivize healthy living. The HEB by William Cannon in Bluff Springs, where I live, there's junk food and mystery meat all over the place. We got to, but you go to HEB in Mueller, you go to Central Market, there's a bunch of stuff from JBG that's really good for you and really non-processed. So we got to incentivize our grocery stores to have affordable, to have a healthy organic food at a sustainable price, at an affordable price. And we got to do a better job of making it. This is a call to action to lead a healthier lifestyle is what COVID is. And we gotta set timelines. We gotta be accountable for certain things. And that's really all we gotta do,
Thank you, Alex. Casey, do you need me to repeat the question?
Sure. And can you turn up? I'm sorry, your mic's a little fuzzy.
Is it? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So we're just talking that healthcare has been on everybody's mind lately, especially because of the pandemic. So what will you commit to doing to ensure that there are no more delays in getting a permanent healthcare facility built in East Travis County?
Right. Work with, of course, healthcare organizations like Central Health, Sendera Health, and the City of Austin, school districts, AISD, Del Valle ISD, and garnering support and garnering people's advocacy to bring healthcare to our district, which is sorely needed. I believe we have one healthcare clinic, which is community healthcare down there off of 973, but that's not enough. We have thousands of residents. We have people who need help now, and they cannot serve our entire community. So information distribution, garnering support through the school districts, and taking ideas from the community. What do we want? What do we really need? And how are we really going to go about doing that? So we just need to figure out ways we can implement policy, figure out ways that we can entice more healthcare organizations to come to our district, besides just Central Health, besides Sendera Health, maybe getting a federal program or a state program to help us to meet the need of our people. And like Alex said, that's a great idea. If you can attack the source of unhealthy living at its source, if you can attack it at its source, then you can prevent unhealthy living and the need for more healthcare. So I believe that bringing healthy foods, bringing information on healthy practices, on healthy exercise, on how to live better, and how to improve our quality of living.
Thank you, Casey. All right, David, it's your turn.
Thank you. Yeah, I think some of what Casey said gets at a really important point, which is, electing one of our own to city council doesn't end this, right? We still are going to need to organize. We are still going to need to advocate and to bring attention to that long neglected infrastructure that we have in Southeast Austin and Southeast Travis County. And so, sure, getting one of us who's going to advocate for this community is going to make things easier. But really, we need to work to empower the community. And I saw that I think Commissioner Trevelyan joined us now, and he had helped convene some conversations between us and Central Health and community care. and in an opportunity that I had to speak to the executive team for those organizations, I mentioned that when the pandemic first hit our community, and those community care clinics shut down and the services were reduced, as the cases in Southeast Austin were rising, as the cases in the Latino community were rising during the pandemic, the message that was sent was that, as we're gradually working towards equity, when things get tough, it's the first thing that we abandon. And it can't be that way. And I know that there are people who I know I'm friends with and I've worked with in the past at Central Health and Community Care who share our goals, and they want to work towards equity, and they want to make sure that Southeast Austin and Southeast Travis County gets that infrastructure and assistance and public health services that we need. And so we need to keep advocating. We need to make sure that Central Health is staying true to its mission as well. And the city has a critical role to play in partnering with the other jurisdictions and providing any kind of support that we can, whether that's changes in land use regulations, whether it's direct assistance, whatever it may be. And if I have the honor of serving on the city council, that's what I'm going to work towards. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Vanessa, would you like me to repeat the question?
Nope, I think I'm good. Thank you. So, I'm proud to say, as I shared earlier, that I've been endorsed by the EMS Association because they see that I'm the candidate in this race that's focused on improving our inadequate healthcare systems right here in District 2. The health divide between East and West Austin cannot continue to stand. We need to hold our leaders accountable. The status quo of stark imbalances in community health needs to end now. And this means scrutinizing the budget and working with our elected officials at every level to demand timelines and deadlines to the building of a permanent healthcare facility in East Travis County. I will be a vocal champion for Del Valley services, both on the dais and off the dais. I will be relentless in bringing attention to the health disparities we face in Del Valley, and will leverage the bully pulpit on council that has purview over the portion of Del Valley to ensure that there are no more delays. One thing that most people that I often talk about is that Del Valley is both rural and urban. Half of Del Valley reside within City of Austin limits. So the council member for District 2 has significant leverage in demanding and ensuring that our healthcare facilities get built, that there's no delay, and that we are watching and demanding attention and services. And I encourage everyone to check out the Del Valley Community Coalition because they're a great resource in advocacy and really bringing and building that community power.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. And then this is the last question for the four of you. What are your feelings about raising taxes on the many citizens that have lost their jobs and had their wages frozen in the middle of this pandemic? And what relief do you have planned for the most needy in this community? And so Alex, you're up first.
All right. Look, raising taxes while you're in the middle of the biggest recession in our city and our country's history is the most insensitive and out of touch thing a city government can do. And what we need to do is we need to utilize the money in our reserves to actually provide meaningful aid and just compensation to the individuals and businesses that were most affected by the shutdowns, like our music venues, our bars, our bartenders, the people in our service industry, our musicians, our waiters, our busboys, all of these people. These are the people that we need to be providing immediate aid to, and these are the people who we need to prioritize helping more than anybody else right now, because they are the people who are the most affected by what happened. And look, one of the reasons why people love coming to Austin so much, one of the reasons why Austin's such an amazing city is because of these venues and these establishments and our live music and our our nightlife. And for the city to for the city to just turn their back on these establishments, it's a giant slap in the face, you know what I mean? So we need to allocate the funds within our reserves, and these are the people that we need to help primarily. That's really the gist of that. I think that if you're going to defund, APD, like I said earlier, you should allocate some of that money or a lot of that money to help the people in our service industry, because they're the ones who honestly need the help the most as a result of this pandemic. So that's really the main thing that I've been talking about throughout this entire campaign. So that's really the long and short of it. And I'm really excited. I'm really glad that I have somebody like Casey Ramos who sees eye to eye with me on a lot of these issues and really genuinely wants to help the people that are most affected by this, instead of just, reciting empty platitudes for the interests of developers. So I appreciate all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Casey, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you.
Okay.
As Alex said, I believe anybody who is proposing any policy that is going to raise our taxes at this time is completely disconnected from the community and really has no business leading our community, especially with Proposition A and B even, because Proposition A, well, that's a no-brainer. It's going to raise our property taxes by 25% for the average homeowner. And anybody who knows our district knows that 30% of our people are living at or below the poverty line. And the minuscule, or what some people might consider a minuscule raise in taxes, like a few $100s, could be the difference between keeping their home or keeping their rental property and having to be displaced with outside of the city limits. And Proposition B, a Trojan horse. They are fixing the wrong Ross Road. The Ross Road that they're proposing they fix already has sidewalks, already has lights, already has crosswalks for students to cross. But there's another Ross Road, a second one, that is completely dilapidated, that does not have sidewalks, that does not have lights, that does not have anything for people to walk on. So it was hastily written, and it's something that's not going to benefit our community to the best that we can use our tax dollars. And plus, we already paid for that. In 2016, we took out $1 billion bond for those exact reasons, and very little to none of that money came to our district. And so I propose that we, excuse me, it's my baby. I propose that we implement policies that are going to actually benefit our community and not hurt our community. And they are just again false claims of helping our community, while at the same time they're going to raise our taxes and displace us.
Thank you, Casey. All right, David.
Thank you. Well, as we have mentioned a few times, the pandemic really has disproportionately impacted our community. And as we continue to face that impact of the pandemic, as we start to go through an economic recovery, it's more important than ever for our city to be able to provide the vital resources that our community expects it to. And so we need to have appropriate levels of funding in order to do that. And of course, anytime that we're talking about taxes, public leaders need to be really careful, really thoughtful about when we raise taxes and how we are being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. But we have just been discussing how many needs we have in Del Valley, in Dove Springs, throughout Southeast Austin. And in order to meet those needs, in order to provide adequate access to healthcare, in order to take on our food insecurity challenges, in order to provide more educational and economic opportunities for our community, we need to be well equipped. We need our city to be equipped to be able to provide those resources. And it's going to be on us to make sure that our investments, that our policies, that our laws reflect our community values. And that's what we need to work on, to make sure that those investments are focused on equity and that our community is receiving the investments for infrastructure and for services that we need and to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, Vanessa.
Yeah, thank you. So, we know that many in our community are struggling to make ends meet. And so any increases in taxes is a decision that should not be taken lightly. Many in our community are just a $400 emergency away from poverty. So we had to be very, very careful with any increases to our taxation. So I believe that any increases of property taxes should be put forth to the will of the voters, and our community should have a say whether or not there are increase in taxes. And we'll have a say this November with Prop A and Prop B. And so what I proposed, the other part of the question was, what are some measures you propose for property tax relief? Is I believe, and these can be found on my plan, on my website, vanessafораustin.com, is that the city should establish a one-stop shop division to integrate all assistance programs to one centralized database to ensure efficiency and simplify processes. And more importantly, to help have a targeted outreach program so that homeowners are aware of resources and assistance program that are available to our taxpayers, so that homeowners are aware of exemptions that or rebates that they could qualify for with utilities or other measures. And so that is one proposal. Another proposal that I have is creating a neighborhood stabilization loan program to assist vulnerable low-income homeowners to provide long-term low-interest loans. And so this is another measure that I champion and believe that will help with our families, especially in light of how many of our families are at risk of displacement. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you, each one of you. You guys will now each have a 1-minute closing remark. So Alex, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Sure. Listen, thank you once again for having me. It's clear now more than ever, we need a more affordable, we need a more accountable, we need a more accessible Austin, and we need reasonable, actionable solutions to address a lot of the issues that we're dealing with. And, I'm going to be honest, and I said this before, Casey Ramos and I were the only two candidates who actually have real plans to actually bring these things about. And I'm lucky that I'm getting to run alongside another candidate who sees eye to eye with me and a lot of members of the community on the issues that I've been proposing on my website. And, when you have a person like Casey who's lived in this district his entire life and has widespread community support and knows the inner workings of the district, probably more so than not only any candidate in this forum, but probably any candidate running for public office at all in the city of Austin locally, it's a no-brainer. I got into this race because there are a lot of glaring issues that we need to address, and there's another candidate who's willing to address them, but he actually has the widespread community support to do that. So once again, just to reiterate, officially dropping out of this race, and I'm putting all of my support behind helping Casey Ramos get elected, because a vote for Casey Ramos literally is in many ways a vote for me and a vote for everyday common working folks and small business owners in Austin. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex. All right, Casey, 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Again, I'm the only candidate that's a family man. As you can hear my baby, so I think that it takes a family man to really understand the urgency of what we need as a district, and the necessities and the tools and the policies that we need to implement. And again, thank you, Alex, for endorsing me. And I look forward to serving our community. I look forward to implementing policies that are actually going to benefit our community, not things that are like Trojan horses like Proposition A and Proposition B that are fixing the wrong roads and going in the wrong direction against the people, and that are even living it up to a chance. Why, if it's so crucial, we have lived in such a crucial time, why leave it up to chance? We cannot chance having Proposition A and Proposition B passed. It could be, again, like some of us already said, it could be the difference between having people stay in their homes and having people keep their rental properties, or living within the city limits. Again, Casey Ramos, a family man. I know what it takes, and I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. All right, David.
Thank you, y'all. Well, first, I just want to say thank you again for all the work that y'all have been doing, especially during the pandemic. I am confident that as we overcome this, as we rise from it, that we can build a new and better Austin that focuses on justice, equity, and opportunity for all of our neighbors. I am really honored for the opportunity to come here and speak to y'all and to be running to represent our community. I am the person in this race who has a deep personal connection to this district, who has demonstrated that I have the conviction and values needed to push for real change, who has built the strong coalitions that we need to create real progress, and who has the most relevant experience to be a fierce and effective advocate for our community on the Austin City Council. If you would like to learn more about us or to join our campaign, please visit our website. It's david4d2.com. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, David. And then last but not least, Vanessa.
Thank you. So I believe that every person in our community has the right to move safely around our city, that a roof over your head should be a given, and that healthy food access is a priority. I believe that healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and that most importantly, every resident should have the opportunity to create the life that they want to have. However, for many in our community, that's not the reality. I'm running to bring our community's voice to City Hall. We need a leader who will ask the tough questions, defend our community from displacement, and stand up for our community on the issues that matter most. I'm an experienced community health advocate, and as we look to our local leaders to help us through the pandemic, I believe that my experience in public health advocacy, my unparalleled work ethic, and my record in community leadership right here in Del Valley best positions me to serve our community and to take on the status quo. This campaign is for all of us, no matter our differences. We're all connected and we all belong. I love our city, I love our community. I will work hard for our Del Valley community. It's time to show up for us. Join me in this movement to bring change to City Hall by visiting vanessaforaustin.com.
Well, thank you, candidates. Thanks, Alex, Casey, David, and Vanessa. We really appreciate you joining us and informing the community about that, and we appreciate it. Next, we have candidates running for Travis County Commissioner Precinct 1, Jeff Trevelyan and Solomon Arkoven. Jeff Trevelyan, we'll start with you. Please tell us about your campaign and why you think you are the person to represent Del Valley at the court.
Okay, good morning. First, I'd like to say thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to the community. It is really important that we have consistent opportunities to talk to each other and to understand the issues and concerns from the community's perspective, so that it's not downtown talking about what it is we should be doing. It is public servants talking with community advocates and leaders, talking about how we work together to build the change that we're looking for. Just to go into my background a little bit. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, but I have lived in northeastern Travis County for over 35 years now. I grew up in Jackson, went to Jackson State. I was a political science major there. I worked on local and state and national issues there. Became a Sloan Fellow, and that gave me the opportunity to come to graduate school at the University of Texas at the LBJ School of Public Affairs. When I went to school there, I've always been very interested in community issues. The first place that I volunteered was a program called Upward Bounds at Houston Tillotson. And the idea there was to mentor students and to give them an opportunity to get used to work on a college campus, get used to having someone work with you, not only your homework, but enrichment. How do we make sure that local kids have the opportunity to experience things that oftentimes aren't experienced except for west of 35? It was important for me because both of my parents were teachers. My dad was a principal who became a superintendent. My mom was a homemaking teacher. It has always been important for me to work with communities and to work not just in one area, but how do we build partnerships with our school districts, with the organizations like Central Health, and make sure that they are identifying things, or they're talking to the community and getting the resources that they need. Now, Tina, I should ask you, how long do I have? Or
10 minutes.
okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to get the yellow card. All right, all right, all right. I wanted to make sure that we have been involved in the issues that will be meaningful to the community over a period of time. I worked with the state of Texas for about 14 years. I was at one time staff for the Legislative Black Caucus. I worked at the General Land Office where I wrote state title opinions. I worked at the Texas Natural Resources Commission, TNRCC at the time, where I was a budget analyst. When I left TNRCC, I went to the comptroller's office and worked in the Texas Performance Review. And one thing that we did at the Performance Review was we looked at programs that were supposed to be providing resources into communities to determine whether they were effectively delivering those resources. To look at their budgets, to look at their work plans, to identify whether they were doing the things that benefited the community the most. That was a position that is kind of directly related to what I do on the commissioner's court, trying to look over the programs that are in place to determine whether we're funding them right, to make appropriate adjustments to those programs if they're not providing the outcomes that we're looking for. After I worked for 14 years with the state, I moved over to the city of Austin. I was a business process consultant at Austin Energy. That was an expansion at Austin Energy of the type of work that we were doing at the Texas Performance Review. We looked at programs like the Plus One program to make sure that we were providing resources to our consumers who could not afford their energy bills. Because we know that in the city of Austin, when you live in the city of Austin proper, Austin Energy is the only game in town. And we had to make sure that we were providing the types of programs that would address the needs of our community that was the low to moderate income community. I also was asked to take over the Department of Small and Minority Business Resources when it was under federal investigation. We found that there was a problem with the way that data was managed, and we found that there was a problem with the way that our customers were being treated. Some folks did not know when their certifications were going to expire. Some folks did not know how to make sure that every commodity code that they were able to be certified in, that they had access to that commodity code, and that they understood exactly how our programs worked and how they could benefit most from them. So I was responsible for standardizing the operating procedures at that program, making sure that we were tracking the certification timelines of people who were certified to do business, building programs like our bonding and technical assistance program so that people would have the tools and the means to grow their business and create more business opportunity with the city. I also worked at the Department of Public Works after I left the Small Minority Business Program, and what we did there was we wanted to make sure that we created training opportunities so people would have a career, not just a job. We brought in TEACS, which is a division of Texas A&M, to make sure that we were getting our employees, particularly in road and bridge, certified. We had 57 different machines that were being operated. You can become certified on those machines, and the more machines you're certified on, the more opportunity you have in becoming a manager. We wanted to make sure that we built what we call the Public Works University. So people had the opportunity to, beyond their normal work time, learn about other opportunities, volunteer for other opportunities, and build a career at the city rather than working for 10 years and staying in a relatively similar position that they started in. I also worked in the Department of Code Compliance, and my responsibility there was to help and build a community-centered, community-focused group that worked with neighborhood associations in the city to determine what resources the city had available to make sure that people had an opportunity to keep their properties in compliance without having to go through severe penalties. Oftentimes, there are folks that they take care of their properties really well while they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. But as they get older, we wanted to make sure that we identified folks who were elderly, who should not be climbing on ladders and cutting tree limbs, who should not be climbing on top of the house and moving leaves from their gutters and whatnot. We wanted to make sure that we created a community response so that we could address the needs of community, have the property in the condition that we wanted, but not penalize people in the process. So that program is still being built out at this point. We designed it and put all of the departments together that needed to be a part of the discussion and a part of the process before I left. Since I have been, and after I left the city of Austin, after I was elected to this position in November of '96. Since I have been here, the things that we have been focused on really, well, they fall in a number of areas, but the priorities have been transportation. And when I say transportation, I also mean our road policies and all of the things, whether we're talking about Cap Metro or whether we're talking about Campo. There's also been access to health care. And it's also, oh, okay, I think I got the red card, but happy to talk about any of the things that we have been working on, and I look forward to answering your questions when we get to that point in the program.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
I'm Baptist, I talk a long time.
Thank you, Jeff. So unfortunately, our second candidate, Sullivan Arkoven, had a family emergency and had to leave the forum. So we're just going to continue on with the questions with you, Jeff, if that's okay. So,
of course.
Hey, Tina, can I make a suggestion? Since we don't have the candidate, I think that we should give Jeff the opportunity to continue talking and to just talk to us about whatever he wants. This was the opportunity that we had given to everyone. And I think that Mr. Trevelyan should take advantage of the other candidate dropping from our forum. Does anybody have any objections to that?
Absolutely not. I'm okay with it.
Okay, I would thank you. I appreciate it. I would love to talk about any questions that anybody would have. I can talk about. Not only have I tried to work in state and local government, but part of the things that I've done are really involved in civil rights. I've been involved in the NAACP since the day that I got here, and have served in one capacity or another for 35 years. I was the branch president in Austin for 7 years, and have been the state communications chair, working directly with Gary Bledsoe for the last 25 or so years. I left the presidency of the NAACP when my oldest child, who's 27 now, became 5. When he started playing youth sports, I became one of his coaches. I thought that it was important to not only work with him, but to know who his friends were and to be involved in community and to think about the things that were necessary to make sure that all of our kids had a chance to participate. Because what you understand when you participate in youth athletics is, some kids are fortunate to have both parents around. Some kids are fortunate to have a really good support network around. But we've got some kids that don't have access to all the things that they need. And we try to build parent groups so that we can make sure that every kid had access to cleats. Every kid had access to Gatorade. Every kid felt like they were a part of our team. And we focused on, if you're going to practice here, you've got to have your homework done every day. If you're going to participate, we need you to fully participate. And we ask the same types of things of our groups of parents as well. I think that being involved in making sure that there are youth opportunities is something that we have got to be particularly interested in. We have been working and talking about trying to make sure that we've got a good asset map of the types of after-school programs that we fund and support. And from the county's perspective, we want to make sure that we are providing learning opportunities through internships for our kids that are 15 and older. But we also want to make sure that we provide resources at the school level. I worked with Central Health over the last couple of years, and it has been rocky working with Central Health. We are trying to make sure that Central Health builds an effective safety net with the dollars that are being spent by this community. Sometimes I think that Central Health focuses a little bit more on trying to rebuild the Brackenridge tract than they are trying to build the clinical capacity that we need in the Del Valley area and that we need in the Colony Park area. And we try to make sure that we push them back to that focus every time they get away from it. We requested, our office requested, and they responded to creating some clinical capacity by co-locating facilities at Overton, co-locating facilities at the community center in Manor, and trying to get to a point where they put an actual clinic into the southeastern part of the county. We will have to redouble our efforts and make sure that the right resources are put into the community, because we think that too many resources have been directed downtown. It's not that I have an inherent problem with building up capacity at UT's medical school if that capacity serves our community, if that capacity comes out to that community and takes the resources that they've been trained with and make them available for us in the Eastern Crescent who need them. We just have to make sure that we continue to work together. It was this community that gave our office a call when Central Health closed down the clinic when COVID actually took hold. And what we tried to do was make sure that we bring Central Health's leadership in front of this community and answer the question, why did you do this without talking to us? Why did you do this without talking to the community? To make sure that they understand that they operate with public dollars, not private dollars. And our expectation is that we be in the loop on decisions that be made, and we not find out about them 2 weeks later. It's important that we build the capacity in community. You guys are our eyes and our ears. It is important for us, and it's important for us to meet and talk regularly. It is important for us to understand what the challenges are and to try to build the critical mass, not only the critical mass, but the resources that are necessary to address them. So I think that we've tried to focus on transportation as this bond has been discussed. One thing that we pushed extremely hard for was to have.
Hold on 1 second. I think we have a question regarding health since you were on the Central Health topic.
Okay. Sure. I think you're muted. I think you're muted.
Oh, so concerning Central Health, you know, we've been hearing a lot about like the downtown resources and everything else. And I heard your comments during the commissioner's court about talking about that they really need to invest in the Del Valle area and also the Hornsby Bend area. We were curious to know about one of the topics that came up during the commissioner's court was transparency. Do you think that an audit of how they spend their money would be reasonable to ask for Central Health to be audited of that, like how they actually spend the money that taxpayers are actually, you know, giving to them in revenue?
I absolutely, yes. I mean, that's what we focused on primarily at the Texas Performance Review. People should know in advance and have a voice in the manner in which resources are going to be deployed into their community. I think Fred Lewis made the statement, and I tend to agree, that a 4-page budget that does not lay out the core values is a budget that we would not accept from a lemonade stand. I think that you know, our expectation, and we'll be pushing for this immediately, is, and what I asked for was that they sit down with our planning and budget officers and build a budget process that is more comprehensive and is more detailed, and that they answer the same questions that your county answers for you every budget cycle. It is, you know, it is important for us to know where they're spending their dollars. It is important for us to know the EEOC numbers for their senior managers, for their mid managers, and for their first line managers. It is important for us to know what their spending priorities are. It is important for us to have project plans for every project that comes through that body, and then we expect them to be on a 3-year audit cycle. You know, and an audit is not to play gotcha. An audit is to have everybody agree on what our priorities are, how we're going to fund them, and then sit back for a fiscal year and determine in the third quarter of that year whether those spending priorities have been respected by senior staff. You know, we're not trying to play gotcha. We're telling you exactly what it is we want you to do, and then we are evaluating whether you've done that, and then we're giving you feedback on how things must happen going forward if you expect for that budget to be approved again.
So speaking more on Central Health, so we talked about, you mentioned about the healthcare clinics closing and you having the conversations. So with the healthcare being such a big conversation in 2020 and COVID exacerbating a lot of our problems, what is your commitment to ensure that there are no more delays with the building of the permanent healthcare facilities in East Travis County?
Well, you know, the first thing that we do is you know, we have been working to make sure that we've identified the property that it's going to be on. We've been making sure that we have put the resources in place to put the facilities in place. But the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to meet with them. We're going to start back our monthly meetings with them to see what the progress is on the plans that have been agreed to. We want to make sure that everything that they have said that they're going to do, they are actually doing, and that there's evidence of that. So we let's see, for at least 2 years, we had monthly meetings with 18 with up to 18 groups that are stakeholders in the community. We're going to put those meetings back together and determine whether or not progress is being made on the most important aspects of their budget. And that's one of the most important aspects of their budget.
So the final question, what are your feelings about raising taxes on many citizens that have lost their jobs and had their wages frozen in the middle of this pandemic? And what relief do you have planned for the most needy in this community?
Well, certainly this is a difficult time, and COVID has been a difficult time, and we have seen a lot of gaps that have occurred because because the way that we distribute resources from downtown is not perfect. What we have tried to do, for example, with our CARES dollars, is we have tried to make sure that we stand up programs that serve vulnerable populations. As a jurisdiction that has over 500,000 citizens, we were given $64 million to address community needs. We immediately put 10 million of those dollars into play to make sure that we were paying attention uh, to the food needs, to clinical needs, to resources that are available for people who are renting and owning homes. We put another $10 million that is available for business owners. We're trying to make sure that they have access to the resources to keep their doors open. We tried to fund things like, for example, when we had we worked with a number of school districts to make sure that kids who expect and need 2 meals a day from their school system still have those meals available. We worked not only with school districts in our area, but we worked with the Capital Area Food Bank as well. We also worked with nonprofits who are driving meals out to communities, but we also worked with restaurant owners. We saw that there were some restaurant owners who did not want the food to spoil in their refrigerators, so they would cook the food and take it to nursing homes, cook the food, take it to first responders. We put together, I think, a little over $1 million to continue to make sure that those types of things are done. We worked on things, I think, from an emergency perspective effectively. But what we learned is a lot of these things are necessary even when the emergency goes away. We know that COVID is probably going to be with us at least another 6 months to a year without a vaccine. It's still going to be important that we cocoon our elderly community, but it's also going to be important that we continue to provide meals not only for school children, students, but also for their parents as well. And we've got to do things that are going to create job opportunities and training opportunities so that families who were involved in the service industry, and a number of those service industry jobs have gone away for good. We are working with the local workforce board, and we gave them a grant, I think it was 2 weeks ago, of $1.8 million. That is to fund a 2-gen process. It's not only to train potential employees, but it is also to provide quality childcare for the kids and access to transportation for the families as well. One thing we worked on and we pushed for was as we talk about Project Connect, how does it serve the Eastern Crescent? What are the assets specifically that are associated with Northeast and Southeast Travis County? So what you'll find is what has been added to it that was not in the original ask is there will be, for example, a metro rapid going out of Techno Center. What we saw in gentrification in 78702 is that people were pushed up to the Runberg area. They were pushed out to the Colony Park and Austin's Colony area as well. But those areas were not served well by public transit. When you look at the buses, when you look at the 233 that comes up Decker, comes up Loyola and then Decker, and the Northeast feeder 237, those buses that leave once an hour. That is not adequate. and it does not come out far enough. We've worked with carts to make sure that we have some capacity out through the Weberville area. We wrote a transit development plan that was designed to work specifically for our communities in the Austin Colony area and then up 969 as well. But what we found was added to Project Connect was there's going to be a Metro Rapid that comes out of Techno Center, but more importantly, there is going to be a pickup route that goes from Runberg, which is the area where our local workforce board is located, all the way up to the Wells Branch area. And within that area, you can call someone, you can call the pickup department at Cap Metro and have a bus that comes, and have a smaller bus that comes out to you within 15 minutes and either takes you to a local area within the service area or takes you to Techno Center where you can get one of the Metro Rapids every 15 minutes. We asked for the same thing at the Expo Center. So we'll have a Metro Rapid that'll leave every 15 minutes from the Expo Center. We will turn the Expo Center into a park and ride, or a park and ride will exist there. Not only a park and ride, but a park and ride will be there. There will also be a park and ride at the Delco Center. And between those two park and rides, we are trying to address 4 routes, and those 4 routes are 3 of them are 60-minute routes, and 1 of them is a 45-minute route. If we're fully able to get what we're asking for, you will have a pickup area that will come to your house and pick you up within 15 minutes of your call and take you to a 15-minute bus that will leave the Expo Center. We are also trying to make sure that we are addressing the needs, the transit needs that will serve really the Del Valley area, which I think is going to be necessary when you bring the jobs from Tesla and the other companies that are coming to provide support for Tesla as well. That is the next area that will be planned for, and our expectation is that they will put a pickup project there as well. I also think that it will serve our community more effectively if we use the resources that now fund the 233 and the 237, and we create a pickup route in Colony Park as well. So we are working to try to make sure that we are addressing the transit needs of areas where families have been pushed out from the city to live in, and there are no transit opportunities yet. The other thing that we're trying to do is with our Chapter 381 economic development project, we want to make sure that if we do bring it back, that the companies that we bring should commit to us that they will help expand affordable housing in their areas and help expand access to public transit in their areas as well, which is one of the significant asks that we made of Tesla.
That was a very long answer. So another question that people really are not familiar enough about what a county commissioner does, and can you tell us a little bit about the position so people maybe can get more understanding what a county commissioner does? Okay.
Let's see, I guess the primary thing that we do that the community is interested in is we look at the primary areas of budget participation. We are constitutionally mandated to run a court system. We're constitutionally mandated to run a jail system. We're constitutionally mandated to address the needs of indigent care, which is the reason that we were involved in creating and managing the budget of Central Health. As we do those things by setting a tax rate, which makes sure that that we are able to meet the needs of our community. We're responsible for roads outside the city of Austin. So there are a number of primary and very expensive things that we do. Just running a court system and running a jail system are extremely expensive. Also, running an indigent healthcare system is one of our primary responsibilities, and why we push at Central Health as much as we do.
So another question that came in is, Travis County machines support ranked choice voting. Would you be open to seeing that implemented in our county?
Well, I can say this: anytime we have a system of proportional representation, I think you get to a place where you get truer community representation and involvement. I just don't expect that this region, I don't expect that this region or this state would allow such. I was involved in 6 lawsuits with the NAACP on changing the voting system to better reflect the interests of isolated and insular minorities, and frankly, we lost 6 lawsuits to try to get that done, and when they actually did put a system in place, they put it in place after a time in which it would help and represent the minorities that it was designed to help. You went from a 1 in 7 system to a 1 in 11 system, which by definition does not improve the opportunity for minority actors.
Any more questions from anybody?
No, but I do have a comment. Yes, Tina, to your message. Mr. Hay, I want to thank you for the efforts that you put into Central Health and the community. Personally, it's not where I wanted us to go, and I know you've heard our comments, but I do see that with the advocacy and the calls and the emails that were sent out, that you and the Commissioner's Court and Central Health are trying. So I do appreciate that, and we're going to keep pushing until we get everything that we want and we deserve in East Travis County. But I did want to take an opportunity to thank the Commissioner's Court and Central Health for seeing that there is an issue and actually starting to make some progress. So thank you. Just my little closing remarks on that one.
Well, let me say I appreciate that, and thank you, because I grew up in advocacy, and it is important. I mean, it is really important to see folks down at the Commissioner's Court, or whether we're Zoom calling or whether we're meeting in person, because I have seen 25 people change a vote. I've seen people who care about their community and love their community, and are concerned about what their children have access to, make the type of change that's necessary. So I only commend what you try to do, and I think that good policy only happens when we understand both sides of the equation, and we build for something that allows our communities to win. So I always look forward to whether we agree or disagree. It's important to put all of the issues on the table and to figure out whether and how we can get things done. So I have a deep respect for folks who come out and make sure that you understand their point of view, and that we try to get change made. That's the only way change happens.
Yeah, and I do want to note that, we are a nonprofit. We will not endorse, and whoever does win the seat, we will be working with them. And we're not, like I said, we're not going to give up until we get everything that's deserved in our community. So I guess Tina, do we have anything else that we want to ask?
Just Jeff, do you want to give a closing remark about, you know, why people should vote for you and everything else in this upcoming election?
Well, I would say two things. Number one, I will work hard and make sure that I am available and that my office is always available to uh, to uh, to amplify your voice and amplify the issues that you have. You know, I will, and I will always work hard to make sure that we're making progress on the things that matter. I want to fight with you, and I think that you know, if I can only point to my record over time. I hope that those of you that have interacted with me have found me to be receptive and have found us to try to get solutions, legitimate solutions to the problem, to the problems that, you know, I can't guarantee that everything we want to have done will get done, but I can guarantee that everything that concerns us will have voice, and we will try to build the type of relationships and build the type of information network that will create the best possibility for change. I know sometimes the change that we need is radical and immediate, and sometimes we can only meet it in increments. But I promise that I will always fight to the best of my understanding and the best of my ability for this community.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for, you know, I know you could be doing anything. You could be watching the Texas-Oklahoma game, but
Yes,
you know,
hey, priorities, right?
but you sacrifice so that so that we can work together and build our messages together. And I did tape it, so it's all good.
Thank you. Thank you. We are waiting to start our next session. We're going to give it a couple more minutes. And before we do that, I would like to play a video of some of the things that the coalition has done is PPE drives in order to provide personal protection for our community in collaboration with the Austin Latino Coalition. Here's a video that I just want everyone to kind of see and just to see some of the things that we've done. Do that here.
What are y'all doing out here? So we're here giving away free PPE supplies to the communities that need it. You know, we're here in Del Valley. Del Valley is too often forgotten, and so we're here to make a commitment to work in partnership with the Del Valley Community Coalition to serve the community of Del Valley with mask and hand sanitizer. As we know, these parts of towns and communities are disproportionately impacted by COVID, and so we're here to serve our community.
Yay.
That was excellent. That was excellent.
Yeah. All right. I think that we have our next candidates. All right. Ms. Pat King, you are up.
All right. Next, we have candidates running for Travis County Judge, Andy Brown and Michael Lovins. Andy Brown, we will start with you. Please tell us about yourself, your campaign, and why you think you are the person to represent Del Valley at court.
Thanks, Pat. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Andy Brown. I'm running for Travis County Judge. And let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up here in Austin, went to public schools, graduated from McCallum High School, then eventually graduated from UT Law School. So I've been a lawyer since about 2002 and worked on political campaigns also throughout the years. Most recently, I worked on Beto O'Rourke's campaign for Senate. I was his finance director. I was chair of the Travis County Democratic Party for about 5 years. And I've worked on boards and commissions for the city and the county, from the City Ethics Commission to the Transportation Bond Committee at the city and the Sobering Center, where I was the joint appointee between the county and the city. And also worked for a period as an EMT. So I was trained and worked as an EMT, learned kind of the basics of emergency management and triage. Most importantly, though, for my background is for this job, I think is the Sobering Center, where I worked with Judge Nancy Hohengarten and about 40 other people back in 2014. We all decided that we should take a look at the policy idea of a sobering center. And so we looked at centers around the country in Houston, Dallas, all over the United States. And for several years, met once a month. I chaired that committee, and we worked with the city council, all the members of the city council, all the members of the commissioner's court, and even the state of Texas, who eventually all signed on to the idea. And the city agreed to fund it. The county agreed to give us the space for it. And now it's been up and running for several years, and it has already diverted over 4,000 people away from the criminal justice system altogether. And I think that's important because these are people who otherwise could have faced some amount of time in jail, maybe just a night, but maybe a little bit more. And instead of that, instead of getting a criminal record for being publicly intoxicated, they instead have a safe place to sober up overnight. They don't get a record. They aren't taken away from their families for an extended period of time or at risk of losing their jobs. And on the back end of the sobering center, after they spend the night there, that's where many people want to seek other options. They want to go through a recovery program. They would like to seek mental health, or even just visit with someone about mental health, or maybe they need other healthcare options. And that's really why I'm running for county judge, is because I think we need to do more. We need to invest more as a county and as a community in mental health and behavioral health resources to help keep people out of jail, to help steer people away from jail, and to make a difference in people's lives up front without them having to go through the criminal justice system first. Let me just tell you a little bit about the county government here. I think we really have a unique opportunity to completely reimagine from the ground up what a comprehensive justice system looks like, in collaboration with our new district attorney who's coming in, our new county attorney, public defender office, and the sheriff's office. I think that by coming together, we can make the changes that we all know are a long time coming and are needed here at Travis County. I personally don't believe that we should invest, close to $100 million in a new jail at this time. It looks like our jail population is declining, and our community really wants us to make them more safe, not by locking people up, but by dismantling the structures of systemic racism. Our community wants bigger, more innovative investments that make all members of our community more safe. We need a comprehensive review of whether our spending at the county aligns with our priorities. We need to ensure that we're appropriately supporting mental health, behavioral health, and healthcare access for all areas of Travis County, especially and including Del Valley. We know that environmental and structural racism has produced a large population within Travis County with high rates of chronic health conditions that exacerbate COVID. People with pre-existing conditions are more likely to fall ill with COVID and get sicker when they do. It is not acceptable that we have some of the best hospitals and healthcare in the country, a healthcare district created to reduce health disparities, and a state-of-the-art medical school focused on improving health safety and healthcare locally, and we have community members who still can't get basic healthcare. We need an integrated system to solve the most challenging issues for our community. Too many people in our community struggle with mental health and substance use disorders. We need bold investments in innovative models like affordable housing, wraparound service initiatives that Integral Care has worked on. It is not acceptable that the impact of COVID-19 has fallen most heavily on our Latino community and our essential workers in the service and construction industries, and we need to work to change that. We are fortunate that our unemployment in Travis County is lower than the national average and better than it is in many counties across Texas, but that still doesn't paint a clear picture of the many families who are struggling every day or the industries that have been hit most heavily by the pandemic: our service sector, our hospitality sector, and our childcare sectors. For our economic recovery through COVID, we need to ensure that we have adequate personal health equipment, protective health equipment, access to testing, proper safeguards in place, and honest conversations. I also think we need to develop a Travis County Green New Deal for watershed stabilization, transportation improvements, trails to connect people, and to preserve land here in Travis County. We need immediate improvements on congestion and safety and a long-term action plan to ensure that Travis County has the infrastructure to support the rapid growth that is going on here. Water, as you know, is one of our most precious resources, and we need to invest in and restore riparian ecosystems throughout Travis County, which helps slow water and help it infiltrate into the ground instead of carrying our water and soil all the way to the Gulf and causing excessive flooding. Affordable housing is an equity, environmental, and safety issue. Too many Travis County residents can no longer afford to live here, and many don't have the basic services that they need. Other counties have met the need for land use regulations using the county subdivision standards, and I'd like to follow their lead in looking at ways to better help with flooding and fire risks. As your county judge, my #1 goal is going to be to shift your tax dollars to the priorities that you want us to invest in: improving our community's health, protecting our environment, and building smart infrastructure. So I just want to say thank you in particular to everyone here today who has really highlighted the issues hitting Del Valle most strikingly. And I look forward to talking more directly about those specific issues as we get to the question and answer portion. But thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Andy. Next, we have Michael. Michael, please tell us about yourself, your campaign, and why you think you are the person to represent Del Valle at court. You also have 10 minutes.
First, thank you very much. And I just want to make sure y'all can hear me as well.
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. So my name is Michael Lovins. I am running for Travis County Judge. And the first thing that this group probably knows this, but so many people don't. I like to make sure that it's clear kind of what county judge is, because it's not really judge. It's something that it sounds like we'd be sitting in a courtroom and wearing a robe and banging a gavel and issuing sentences or whatever. It's much more like Travis County mayor. And so a lot of the things that we'll talk about don't sound anything like what a judge does. And that's because it's not really a judge in spite of the name. It's an old name. And in some small counties, the county judge still acts as a judge in addition to being more like the county mayor. But obviously we are not a rural county here in Travis County. I'm running to make sure that Travis County remains a safe place for everyone and a place that has a vibrant economy that works for everyone and not just a few people, not just those at the top. Local government lately has been jeopardizing public safety and our economy. And it's something that I am running under normal circumstances. The county judge is not running on the issues that I'm running on, but the city council, in my view, has made a complete mess of things in the last couple of years. And I think the county can step in to fix some of that. We can't fix everything that the city has, in my opinion, messed up pretty badly, but we can make a difference. My first priority is to make sure that the sheriff's office budget is protected. There's a big move to defund police. It happened at the city level. I think that it is a terrible, terrible idea. They took 150 police officers off of Austin Police Department with these cuts. That's what Chief Manley tells us is going to happen. And those cuts are going to hurt. Oh, and the other thing that they did is they shut down the police academy, 3 cadet classes. And the one that was in process already was the most diverse cadet class in APD history. And it shut down. And all of those people who had rearranged their lives around that, not only is it bad for the community because we won't have those people serving us, but now they're kind of left out in limbo to try to figure out what to do next. I think one thing that we should be honest about is when we cut public safety budgets, the first ones who suffer are the poorer parts of the community. So this is defunding the police in the name of compassion is quite the opposite. It puts people who are most vulnerable, at most at risk, in a more vulnerable and riskier position. So the first priority is to make sure that we protect that budget. The second is to try to do some things to actually fill in the gap of some of the things that Austin City Council has created. There is money that can be moved around in the sheriff's office budget and the good news is over the last few years, we have had a decline in the average daily population at the jail. That is a fantastic trend. I hope that it continues. I'm not confident that it will because we have seen quite a spike in crime recently. But a decrease in the average daily population means that we also have a decrease in the number of corrections officers needed. That money can be moved over to patrol deputies. One thing that people often don't understand is that the sheriff's office has jurisdiction throughout the city of Austin for everything to enforce everything that APD can enforce except city ordinances. So that is an area where with proper funding and proper leadership, the sheriff's office can help with a lot of the public safety deficits created by the defund vote that took place a couple of months ago. So those are my first priorities. And of course, one of the other things that has been done at the local level that has been so harmful is the changes in the homeless policy and allowing homeless camps to sprout up everywhere throughout Travis County and especially within the city of Austin, but that affects the whole county, not just the city of Austin. And that policy, it frustrates me so much because it's done in the name of compassion to the homeless. And it is one of the most dehumanizing things that I can imagine because it says to the homeless population, you are less than the rest of us. And you are so much less than the rest of us that the rules that apply to everyone else don't apply to you. And it enables conduct that is self-destructive. And it's very similar to if those of us who have had people in our lives who have been addicted to substances. There is enabling things that people around someone who's dealing with an addiction problem does to enable the self-destructive behavior of the addict. This policy on homelessness is the exact same thing with respect to the homeless population. It is not compassionate. It is a backhanded cruelty that I don't think we should tolerate at all. And the county can't fix all of that, but the sheriff's office can have the opportunity to help those people get to the services that they need. And we have to stop ignoring the crime and the sexual assaults that are rampant inside those camps. So many of them get unreported. I've been working a lot in the last few weeks with some of the folks at the Austin 20, which deals with sex trafficking. And the stories of the folks, the young women that they serve and help are so heartbreaking. And this policy perpetuates those problems. And we have to address them and stop ignoring them. So of course, then the question is, well, why can this Lovins guy get anything done? And I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in Austin for 22 years. I came down here in 1998 to attend the UT Law School. And at that time, I told anybody who'd listen that I was going to be here for the 3 years of law school and not a day longer. I don't know exactly why I thought that there was no way I was going to stay in Austin any longer than 3 years. maybe it all set me up for a political career because Austin made a liar of me pretty quick. So maybe, I don't know. That's a joke for those just reading the transcript. But my wife and I fell in love with Austin. We fell in love with living here. We got married just a year after I came down here. We have 3 kids now, and we don't want to leave. I've talked to so many people who have been in the last few months who've been saying things are changing so badly that we're moving out to Hayes County or Bastrop County or Williams, one of the surrounding counties. Some of them, someone left Texas completely. We have to turn that around at the local level. So I'm running as a Republican. I'm a really weird Republican in a few different ways, but one of them is I'm a personal injury trial lawyer. Right when I got out of law school, I worked for a federal judge for a year. Then I worked for a big law firm representing Fortune 500 companies. And then I went out on my own. And the main thing I do now is represent people who have suffered catastrophic injuries or a loved one has died as a result of terrible decisions made by someone else. Often it's some large company that they just didn't care about safety. So I've had the opportunity to represent people at the very top of the ladder in the Fortune 500 companies and people who are bankrupt or nearly bankrupt and about to get evicted and going through the hardest times that you can imagine. So I have a feel for what it's like at both ends of the spectrum. And also as a personal injury lawyer, most of my professional personal injury lawyer friends are Democrats. And we work together and we find common ground on a lot of things. And we talk politics a lot and we might differ on policy, but we walk away with a mutual respect and a mutual understanding that even though we disagree on things, we have a common love for Travis County, a common love for Texas, and a common love for America. We are losing that so badly in our political discourse. And I'm also in conservative legal circles, and I've worked as pro bono counsel suing the city of Georgetown over public information stuff. And a lot of that, I'm working with people who are on the right of the political spectrum. And on some of those things, we too disagree on policy, but we walk away from the conversation knowing that we have a mutual love for our communities. And we don't cast stones at each other's intentions and all of that stuff. It's a whole different thing. So having my foot in both of these worlds, I've learned to talk to people from both sides of the political spectrum. And I've learned that we really have a whole lot more common ground on things that we can, problems we can solve. And one of the things that, he's my political opponent. We're running against each other and we see a lot of things differently. But the work that he did on the Sobering Center, maybe a better politician would find a reason to criticize it. I won't. I'll tip my cap to him. I think that's excellent stuff. And I think we need to have a culture where we can say to someone who's our opponent on something, hey, good job on that, because it's common ground. How about we start trying to solve problems without worrying?
Michael, sorry, we have to move to the next part.
Oh man,
I'd love to hear more about you, but we have to go to the questions part.
All right.
Thank you, Michael. Now we have a couple of questions, and you both will have 2 minutes to answer them. Please stick to the time. We will give you a 20-second countdown to wrap up. At the 2-minute mark, we will stop you and move on to the next question or step. Okay, first question is, healthcare has been on everyone's mind of late, and the coronavirus has exacerbated the many problems. What will you commit to doing to ensure there are no more delays with the building permanent healthcare facility in East Travis County? Andy, we'll start with you with this question.
All right, thanks, Pat. And that is a great question. And I've got to give credit where credit is due. And I've spoke at length with a lot of people who are on this call today, from Susanna Woody, Tina Byram, Richard Franklin, Pat King, Roy Woody, about the issues in Del Valley and about the fact that we need to do more and that it's long overdue doing more in Del Valley. And the top issue for me at this point in my campaign, and if I'm able to become county judge is going to be getting the clinic that is long overdue at the corner of Sandifer and Gilbert Road in Del Valle, and working with Central Health to make sure that we make that happen, and not waiting till the budget cycle next year when the vote comes for Central Health's budget, but instead starting as soon as if I win, starting when I would take office, working with Central Health and making sure that is happening and on track. And in addition, we now have a second location that also we need to move quickly on in Del Valle for a clinic. But it doesn't just stop there. The healthcare question has other causes and related issues too. And one is making sure that we get a grocery store like an HEB with good prices and good selection of fresh fruits and vegetables in Del Valle. And that is something that I'm committed to working towards with Tesla-like urgency to make sure that we can get that HEB finally in Del Valle or similar grocery store. Similarly, I think that we need to do more to help people get around and get, if they can't see the health clinic that will be built in Del Valle, getting ways to go into town more easily through Capital Metro access. And I would like to work with the members on this call, as well as working with Capital Metro and the county, to try to figure out ways to expand transportation options in Del Valle and make it easier for people to get around in such a growing community that is such an important part of Travis County, and frankly has been long overlooked. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Michael, can you answer that question? You need me to read it for you?
No, I remember it, but thank you very much. We politicians can't be trusted with basic information like that. So I think one of the things that's interesting is, so Del Valle has been an overlooked community for a very long time. And this health clinic has been in the works for quite a long time. The land is purchased. It should be ready to go. But sometimes a government bureaucracy just gets entrenched and they're not responsive to the people that they're supposed to serve. And that's when maybe we just need new blood in there to say, you know what, the bureaucracy, the wheels have to get greased, and they have to get greased by someone who's been running a business. I've hired lots of people, and sometimes I've had to fire them. I hate doing it. And I don't want to just go in and say heads are going to roll at Central Health, but there's not really any reason that and I've even been contacting folks at the Central Health, trying to reach out to them and find out what's going on. And they haven't been terribly responsive. And I don't know exactly why that is. Maybe they've been more responsive to you. So I don't have a particular thing that I can say, I can promise that I can do this by X date. But if the bureaucracy is slowing things down, then we're going to speed up the bureaucracy. It's got to run in a more business-like fashion, because the people of Del Valle deserve better, and they deserve better than the delays that come from an entrenched bureaucracy that isn't responsive to the people they serve.
Thank you very much, Michael. Next question is, what are your feelings about raising taxes on the many citizens that have lost their jobs and had their wages frozen in the middle of this pandemic? And what relief do you have planned for the most needy of this community? We'll start off with you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Start off with you, Michael. Go ahead.
Okay. As far as raising taxes, I have an incredibly complex answer. I'll try to break it down and make it really simple. No. That's it. It's a terrible time to raise taxes. People were having a hard time affording it before, and our unemployment picture in Travis County is better than the national average, but it's not very good right now. And it is largely pandemic related. So on property taxes, no, we're not raising them. In terms of helping the people who are struggling the most, the best thing that we can do is create an economy that has jobs so that they can get out and earn their own living, which is what every human wants to do. They want to be self-sufficient. And one of the things that needs to happen, and as a trial lawyer, I deal with a lot of complex issues that I have to present to a jury. So I deal with experts who know a whole lot more about me on a particular issue. And so I have learned in my job to follow the science and take competing views from experts on something I don't really know a lot about to begin with. But when we look at the science on COVID, we see that now we know a whole lot more than we did a while back. And we can start opening things up a whole lot more. And those jobs that people lost will start coming back, and they'll start coming back quickly. But the longer we delay, the slower it is to recover. We have to take precautions to keep people safe. That's absolutely true. But being shut down the way that we have has inflicted a whole lot of pain on people who never did get COVID. And we need to give them the green light to go back to work and take precautions with masks and with social distancing and hand washing and all of those things. They're extremely important, but we can get back to business and people can get back up on their feet.
Thank you. Andy, can you answer that, please?
Thanks, Pat. The first thing that we need to do is take a look at the county budget and make sure that it aligns with our priorities. Right now, the county jail is the single largest line item expense of the county budget, and the jail itself is basically the largest mental health facility that we have in Travis County. I don't think that aligns with our values here in Travis County, and I want to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to reduce the numbers at the jail, divert people away from the jail who don't need to be there, and invest in the community outside of the jail to prevent people from going to jail. I think the sheriff and the commissioners and Commissioner Trevelyan have done good work and the DA have done some good work over the past several years in lowering the jail numbers a bit. And I want to continue working on that and do so in a concentrated fashion with the same urgency that people did so during COVID, and where people got the numbers down from about 2,200 down to about 1,600 in fairly short order. I think that still needs to be a huge priority for us, because that is the #1 line item expenditure at the county. We also need to make sure that the state of Texas is honoring its obligation of taking people out of the jail after they have been sitting there 45 days waiting for the state to take them. And the state is not upholding that end of the bargain at this point. And that is costing us money, and it is filling our jail needlessly. We also need to invest in psychiatrists in the jail, much in the way that Harris County has done, so that instead of people waiting 2, 3, 4 months to see a psychiatrist in the state hospital system or elsewhere before they can even have a trial, that the way Harris County does it is in about 15 days, that person has been able to see a psychiatrist in the jail, receive the care that they need to be able to stand trial, and often getting out of the jail system within about 15 days. So I think Travis County, that being the largest line item expenditure of the budget, we need to address that first. And then we need to make sure that we're doing everything else that I've talked about, of focusing on jobs and economic recovery through COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Each one of you will have 1 minute for closing remarks. We'll start off with you, Andy.
All right. Well, I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much for all of your time on a Saturday of listening to us talk. And I really appreciate the positive manner that y'all put this forum together. Can't emphasize enough how important it is to vote this year. And we are obviously in an uphill battle against people who have been trying to shut down locations of where you can drop off your voting, your ballots after you've done the mail vote. But don't let that make you give up. This is the most important election of our lifetimes. It is extremely important that you vote up and down the ballot. Everyone from the presidential race to my race for county judge to Commissioner Trevelyan's race and beyond. It's absolutely critical that we do this. We can make a very strong statement to the state of Texas by showing that we have high turnout, even though everything is against us this time with COVID and with polling locations and everything else that is going on. So just want to thank you so much for your time and for your attention today. If you have any questions about my campaign, my website is voteandy.com, and I would be more than happy to talk with any of you in detail about it. So thank you very much for your time today.
Roy, turn it over to you.
I'm sorry, did you turn?
Michael's turn.
First of all, thank you guys very much. The Del Valley Community Coalition is the exact type of organization that makes a difference and makes progress possible. it's so easy to sit back and really not do anything or not get involved, or maybe have your involvement limited to just voting. But what you guys are doing, taking time out of your schedules, you could be doing all kinds of other different things, but you care so much about your community that you're doing this, and I appreciate it very, very much. And I mean that whether you vote for me or not. My name is Michael Lovins. I am running for Travis County Judge. I do want your vote. Let's be very clear on that. I think we need a new direction in local government. It has been going the wrong direction. And I think the skills that I've learned in working with experts, representing people from every different walk of life, give me the tools that I need to really make a difference and get us on the right track. Travis County has been getting dangerous the last couple of years, and I think we should get back to being weird. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so very much. Roy?
Yeah. All righty. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Andy, for taking time out of your busy schedules to chat with us for a little bit. We know you guys are campaigning, so good luck to both y'all and have fun out there.
Thanks, Roy.
Thanks, Roy.
Yeah. All righty. Next up, we have, we're going to talk about the propositions A and the propositions B. And I think we have, so we're supposed to have Adam Greenfield. He's with the Safe Mobility for All, and he's an advocate for Proposition B. Adam, would you like to go ahead and take 10 minutes to explain your position and tell us a little bit about Prop B?
Thanks, Roy, and hello DVCC, and hello everyone watching this. It's nice to be with you on this beautiful day, and thanks for taking time for these really critical conversations we're having. So I am the campaign manager for Proposition B, which is a proposed bond on the November ballot this year, or the voting ballot that you're now voting for if you're voting early. And can I share my screen and show some slides?
Yes, you should have the ability to do it now.
Okay, all right, I will do that. There we go. So hopefully folks can see that. So here we are, Proposition B. So Proposition B is a proposed $460 million bond that would fund pedestrian, bike, and safe streets infrastructure. And you can see the breakdown right here. A big chunk of it, 80 million for sidewalks, 40 million for bike lanes, 65 million for Vision Zero projects, which Vision Zero is a city goal to reduce deaths and serious injuries on our streets to zero. It would also include large capital projects, including a new pedestrian bridge near the Longhorn Dam, and you can see it in this picture here. This is an artist's rendering. And phase 1 of improvements on Congress Avenue north of Riverside. There would also be 80 million for urban trails, for those who love our growing urban trails network. 20 million for Safe Routes to School, which is a program that makes walking and biking near schools very, very much safer. And then there would be $53 million for substandard streets, particularly those in the Eastern Crescent, including Ross Road and Johnny Morris Road. So as some of you well know, these are roads that were once sort of outside Austin or once more kind of rural environments, and now communities have grown up around them, but the infrastructure hasn't caught up. I guess I should just speak for a second about why this stuff is important. You know, more and more people in Austin want choice about how to get around. A lot of people like to drive, and they should be able to continue to do so if they wish. But a lot of people are too young or too old or have a disability and can't drive, or just don't want to drive or can't afford a car. And they should be able to get around safely no matter how they choose to do so. So Proposition B is an investment, and that means it will cost something, but will make far more back in the long run than the investment we put in. So it would be funded by issuing bonds between approximately the years 2022 and 2026. And the way bonds work is that the cost would ramp up to about $6 to $7 a month for the median value homeowner, and that would cost somewhat less for renters. So in most years, it would cost less than $6 to $7 a month, but in the peak year or so, it would be that much. But putting that $6 to $7 a month in context, this would make it possible for many more people to walk and bike than today. And let's remember, walking costs $0. Bicycling on average costs about $100 to $300 a year. A cost of owning and operating a car is about $9,000. On top of that, for every $1 we spend on walking and biking infrastructure, society saves 3 times that amount, $3 in terms of health costs. So people getting more exercise, fewer crashes, and so forth. And then right now, every taxpayer in Austin pays on average $3,300 a year for the cost of traffic crashes. So that's cleanup, that's police coming out, that's ambulances, that's infrastructure damage, and everything. So when you compare the $6 to $7 a month for a couple of years to that, it's a pretty huge investment. And then as a result of that investment, we get a world-class bicycling, walking, urban trails network. So the main goal that is behind Prop B is the Austin Strategic Mobility Plan. That's basically the big document that outlines for Austin, how are we planning to get around in the future? And that plan has an aim that by 2039, 50% of all trips will be made in ways other than by driving alone. So you can see that the pink part of the pie chart here today is at 74%. By 2039, we want to see it at 50%. And then we have various other plans as well. The sidewalk plan, the bicycle plan, the urban trails plan, and Vision Zero goals. All of these plans are basically saying we need to invest heavily in infrastructure for walking, biking, and safe streets now to reach those goals in time. As context, a recent survey was done in Austin, and it found that 55% of Austinites now want to get around without a car. So a lot of people do want to get around without a car, but a lot of people are sick of being stuck in congestion. They like going for a bike ride or a walk. They like using public transportation, and they want to use those options more often. Also, 65% of Austinites want to fund this kind of infrastructure we're talking about, bike lanes, sidewalks, and trails, rather than road expansions. They're realizing that expanding roads doesn't do anything because all it does is encourage more people to drive, and then congestion just gets the same as it was before. And that's why over 130 businesses and organizations have endorsed Proposition B. And this quote here at the bottom of the page is really kind of summarizes what a lot of people have said, which is, I want to raise my kids in a safe environment where they can walk and ride wherever they need to go. And you're hearing today from the Proposition A campaign, the Project Connect campaign to fund public transportation. We need to fund Proposition B and Proposition A so that people can get to their bus stops or their train stops safely. So that's my brief presentation. As hopefully you all know, early voting runs October 13th, which is this Tuesday, to the 30th. And we encourage you to vote early to avoid cramming in at the polls on voting day. And if you want to find out more about the campaign, or if you want to get involved or contact me, my email address is info@safemobilityforall.org. And our website is safemobilityforall.org. And that's my short campaign. And I'm going to take myself off presenter mode here. And thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, will y'all be having any other forums, or will y'all be meeting any other organizations or neighborhood associations?
Yeah, we're trying to meet with everyone we can. So if anyone watching this knows of an organization that would want to have a presentation like this one, and I'm happy to answer questions too, get in touch. Again, my email is info@safemobilityforall.org.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adam, for presenting that. And next we have, we're going to talk about the Prop A. So we have Jeff Trevelyan. He's with Transit Now, or he's going to speak on behalf of Transit Now. And then we'll have Tori Moreland and also Roger Falk, who are with ATX Safe Mobility for All, and they're on the opposing side, and they'll talk after Jeff. Christian Trevelyan, can we go ahead and have
Jeff works just fine.
I apologize.
Commissioner Trevelyan, sir, Guy, yeah. Each position will have 10 minutes to speak, and there's no Q&A. We just wanted to give all of the organizations the opportunity to just talk about their positions and their organizations.
Okay, all right. Appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about transit in Austin. First of all, I think that it's important for us to recognize that that every city that is considered a great, safe, and effective city has a great, safe, and effective transit program. And I've lived in Austin now for 35 years. And I used to be able to cut, when I first moved here, I was able to leave my apartment in the apartment jungle and get to the LBJ school in 15 minutes. We always wondered why, and Austin always took the position, hey, if we don't build it, then they won't come. Guess what? We didn't build it and they came anyway. And the problem is anywhere you go in town now provides a significant hassle. The infrastructure that we have is not acceptable for the size of city we have, and we are expecting this city to double in size every 20 years. To say that we should do nothing is not effective public policy from my standpoint. We should not be in a place where we spend hours and hours and hours in the car instead of working. What we have found is, people spend a couple of weeks of every year just getting to and from work. That is not what we need to do. And let me just talk about this from my perspective. The thing, when I sit down and I talk to folks like Jimmy Flanagan, Jimmy will tell you that he can leave the front door of his house and get on a train and be downtown within 38 minutes. 38 minutes he can be from his house to downtown. If I am just about the same distance away from my office as Jimmy is from his. On a normal traffic day, and we're not talking COVID, we're talking pre-COVID. In a normal traffic day, it will take me an hour to get from Pflugerville on 130 up to 90 to my office. I can get to 290 from 130 and Gaddis School Road in 20 minutes. But then when I get to the split that gets me off of 290 and get on 35 to get to my office, that takes me 40 minutes to get down to where I'm going. It's not effective and it's not necessary. And what I think has been demonstrated to us when you look at the Metro Rapid that comes out of Round Rock and uses the dedicated lane system on Mopac, you can get to where you need to go within a short and reasonable period of time. If you're trying to if you want to get me out of my car and into a Metro Rapid, you're not going to be able to tell me that from the Expo Center to downtown, I have to sit in that bus for an hour. But if you tell me that you can get me there in under 30 minutes, I will then get out of my car. The thing that I looked most at in this particular plan was equity. And I made very clear, I did not support cap remap. I voted against it because it took 12 routes out of the Northeastern corridor. I wanted to know what investment was made into the Northeast corridor that was not available before. And so when I talk to Del Valley, what I'm saying is, why is it that I think that this is important for the area that we're talking about? If you remember when 78702, which is the original Negro district, 7th Street to 19th Street to Weberville Road, when that area was gentrified, people were pushed out towards Runberg and they were pushed out towards Colony Park and Austin's Colony. What about this plan is going to help the areas where people have been displaced and don't have ready access to public transportation now? Okay, when you look at the area which is Runberg, there will be a Metro Rapid put in the Runberg that leaves from the Techno Center area. It will leave every 15 minutes. I was very concerned that there is a lot of really good affordable housing. We've put about 11 affordable housing projects into the Precinct 1 area. A lot of them are up Cameron, which turns to Dessau. Some of them are over near Connolly High School as you move out. Okay, so now that you have a Metro Rapid every 15 minutes coming out of Techno Center, how do you get people to it? They will put a pickup zone in that area. What you get with a pickup zone is you can make a phone call, and within 15 minutes, somebody will pick you up. If you're going to a place within the pickup zone, they'll take you there. If you're going someplace else or across town, it will take you to Techno Center where you can get a bus that leaves every 15 minutes and get to where you're going. The routes that are in that area right now are 60 minutes and 45 minutes long. People, I don't want to use the bus if I have to get there and wait 60 minutes to get it. Or say I want to try to time it and it's off time for one reason or another. Will I have to wait over an hour? I think the component of the pickup system and a Metro Rapid is very significant. Okay, what is happening on the 290 corridor? The first thing is that Expo Center part of it will become a park and ride. I think that's critical for drivers from Pflugerville, critical for drivers from Elgin, critical for drivers from Maynard. Because what we found, we used a grant. The county invested $300,000. It brought down $200,000 of FTA money. We made 4 bus routes in Maynard instead of the traditional 1. And what we found is tenfold increase in participation. If you will pick up people more, if you will allow them to call and come and you'll come to the area, you will get more participation. So if we have a park and ride in the Expo Center, we also have a park and ride in the Delco Center, which is right there at 290 in Springdale, that HEB, if you all are familiar. I think that it will create better opportunities with a pickup system that connects it. Now, it's also going to be important for us to evaluate the bus routes that go up Loyola, the 233 and the 237. I think that it will be more cost effective to turn those routes into pickup areas that feed the Expo Center. Those are the things that we are requesting. Those are the things that we think are important. And the other thing that we were able to put on the map is the next area that will be assessed for a pickup route, and that pickup route would then be connected to the Expo Center, will be the Southeastern Corridor, which is the Del Valley area right now. It is next in line to be evaluated where the most effective pickup area would be. So I am really concerned about people who use the bus as their car. I am really concerned about how we're able to get to work. We've been trying to make sure that we bring in companies like Tesla that are producing semi-skilled jobs. And what I mean by semi-skilled jobs is you don't have to have a college diploma to get it, and it is a good paying job that leads to a career when you do. But when you talk about where jobs are, who employers are, where the proximity is to these locations, I think it is critical to make sure that the people who were displaced from the Austin area have access to public transportation and have access to getting to work, getting to the doctor, getting to the grocery store in enrichment areas. And I think that the investments that you see here will address those primary issues. And if they did not address those primary issues for our area, I wouldn't be here talking to you.
All righty, thank you, Commissioner Trevelyan, for that. And next we have presenting is Roger Falk. He's with our Mobility, Our Future. He's a transportation policy expert.
I don't know about that. What Jeff says, a lot of that I completely agree with. Del Valley has been underserved for too doggone long, and it's not going to take this big tax hike to put in all of the things that he's promising you. You know, Austin voters are being asked to approve the greatest tax increase in public spending proposal in its history, and it's coming during the worst time and health crisis of our generation. It is a culmination of cleverly concocted multi-year, multi-million-dollar strategy to condition our community. Prop A proposes an extraordinarily expensive public transit plan in a city where, frankly, a handful of citizens actually use public transit. You know, they've gerrymandered it to only include voters within the city limits, limiting their opposition and putting the cost squarely on the backs of Austin taxpayers. The ballot language reads like a sales brochure with a litany of irrelevant promises, and it omits the $7 billion voters are being asked to approve. I see it as a thumb on the scale of democracy. This is a serious cost, and they're wanting to embark on yet another big and bold mobility scheme, and they haven't even finished the mobility plan from 2016. And let's talk about that cost. This proposition is all about one thing: getting your money. They struggle to confuse the cost by hiding behind other taxing entities like the county and AISD or Del Valley ISD, and with things like distracting 78 cents a day, or 3 cents a minute or hour. People are being misled into believing that Prop A will fully fund Project Connect and that it's a one-time ask. Do the math. It raises less than $150 million a year. That is a fraction of what is needed for Project Connect. Their own integrated financial model shows borrowing billions of dollars more money with bonds. Guess who's going to get to repay those bonds? Capital Metro has no mechanism to collect substantial new funds. They're spending everything they get now. If this thing was funded with a bond, like we always fund big, large purchases with, and a tax levy for the operation and maintenance, fully funding it on the average value property, according to the appraisal district, would cost $2,800 a year. Guess what? This thing's going to come back with a lot more asks for money. Project Connect is based on an uncommitted federal funding. It's not the done deal that they're leading you to believe. The grant program they talk about is on a temporary one-year life support continuing resolution, and it has an 18-year backlog for existing projects in the queue. I just reviewed it yesterday. We don't even have an application in place yet. Public transit's in crisis across America due to COVID. It's going to take years of bailouts to stabilize and bring it into a state of good repair. It was $100 billion behind the 8 ball before COVID hit town. You know, the plan is to collect this record tax increase regardless of federal funds. That is going to result in an unfunded project or having to pay nearly twice what they're telling you. Prop A would give rise to a 25% city tax increase. That is nearly $500 on that same average value property. And this is important. It's a tax rate increase. Unlike a bond, its cost will rise with your appraised values. It will compound future percentage tax increases, and it is perpetual. It doesn't stop. Get ready for appraisal shock. Our market is superheated, and appraisal increases have been stalled by a lawsuit. They are coming back. Property owners will pay thousands of dollars into Project Connect with little return for a decade. And you folks out in Del Valley, your closest spot to get on board is about 8 miles. So you got to have a secondary piece of transportation to get to this train. It's doing nothing for you. Over 80% of the spending is going to this $250 million per mile fixed light rail. At full ridership, it will only serve less than 1% of regional mobility. We could do the bus rapid transit, the neighborhood circulators, the parks and rides, the route improvements, the bus electrification, all that without the record tax rate increase and the enormous ongoing rail expense, which is hundreds of millions of dollars. Those items are all puffery to make this thing look citywide. We should have already done that stuff. Proponents want your money. They want it to look cheap, so you'll hand it over. COVID has imposed extraordinary problems and imposing extraordinary debt and taxes as many struggle and businesses and employers face bankruptcy show our city leadership is tone deaf and out of touch. This pandemic illustrates riders will avoid high capacity transit because it's risky and the science shows they're right. Great uncertainty exists. This recession could easily slide into a depression. It's not time for painful tax hikes that penalize homeowners and renters. It is a time to be girding for the coming economic fallout of COVID-19. Work from home expansion has reduced the commuting demand that Project Connect hoped to serve. COVID has reduced traffic congestion. Some has come back, but a long-term reduction appears to be likely. The current pandemic isn't resolved. More are in our future, and heavy investment in vulnerable infrastructure is unwise. This pandemic's long-term impact on public transit is unknown. We should see how it plays out before jumping in with both feet. And then you have to look at the effectiveness. Very little of our city will actually benefit from this spending. Del Valley in particular. Unless you live near the train, accessing it will be so challenging and time consuming that it's more practical to drive directly to your destination. Few people will trade the convenience, diversity of destination, and utility of a personal vehicle for the lost time and inconvenience of public transit. And we're moving into newer technologies in mobility. You talk about Tesla. What are they building? They're building autonomous vehicles driven with electric power. Project Connect invests in old technology in the midst of a technological mobility revolution. They say cutting edge and high tech. Hey, that all sounds impressive, but there's nothing cutting edge about 19th century electric rail. And it's losing ridership all across our nation and plagued with maintenance issues. Austin's a progressive tech-forward community. Why would we go all in on a system that would literally be obsolete before it's complete? You know, the old arguments against light rail, that it costs too much and does too little, are truer than ever. But our greatest objection is that it's outmoded in our emerging mobility age, too vulnerable to contagion, and a terrible investment that will never reach its promise. Our website at mobilityaustin.com has a deep dive into many of the reasons why this is true. Our future is distributed, on-demand, doorstep-to-destination mobility whose sheer convenience makes light rail archaic. And Capital Metro knows this. They have this on-demand service pickup. It's their most convenient and popular offering, but it's not available unless you live in Manor, Leander, or a few other places. It's the future. They should be doing more of it, but it's not in this plan. We should be investing in that future. 5G, renewable energy, vehicle connectivity, microtransit and mobility, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, edge computing. All these technologies will form the foundation of 21st century infrastructure. Let's move forward, not backward. And while we're moving, let's follow the money on this thing. Project Connect connects light rail corporate interests and developers to a taxpayer-funded gravy train worth billions of dollars. The Foxes are already in the henhouse setting up this plan. Two of them gave over $200,000 to the PAC pushing the scheme. The millions spent on advertising and flooding proponents' well-oiled PACs, which are staffed by the best lobbyists and political operatives in our area, tells this story. Millions of the marketing funds are tax dollars. That's unprecedented spending that skirts election code. It shouldn't take millions of dollars in propaganda to sell a worthwhile plan. You know, Project Connect's more of a marketing plan than a transportation plan. It sounds like a bad infomercial, a big, bold promise to fix everything: employment, affordability, displacement, traffic congestion, racism, climate change, disparity, pandemics, traffic safety, hemorrhoids. There's nothing, there's no proof it does any of that. Beautiful conceptual rendering of cool bandstands and underground malls have taken precedence over the vital engineering study. Good transit policies driven by logistics and need, not politics and greed. And, you know, the for-profit stainless granite redevelopment is a gentrification machine. Its greatest impact will be on low-income working families and people of color. You know, they got a $300 million anti-displacement fund they brag about, but there's no money there. That doesn't exist. And their mechanism to fund it only raises $4 million a year. It'll take 75 years to get that $300 million. You know, Capital Metro doesn't have the competence to do oversight. This is going to be all done by consultants who are waiting to make the money, and they're funding the PAC that is going to push this. The downtown tunnel, they haven't even done any hydrology or geology on this thing, and there's a lot of problems.
All right, thank you, Roger. Thank you to all the candidates and all the organizations that have reached out to us and have been part of our forum. We really appreciate it. And one of the things that Del Valley Community Coalition does is that we want to be a venue for education to our community. And this is a perfect opportunity for them to know about what's on the ballot when we're having elections. Early voting actually starts on Tuesday. So please make plans to get to the polls. If you need rides, there are plenty of organizations that are willing to give you a ride. I want to thank everyone. As the president of the coalition, we really appreciate y'all coming on and taking time out of y'all's campaign and out of your schedules. We know that this is a go-to critical time for y'all. So thank you so much. Roger, I didn't get a chance. I gave a chance to the other organizations. Are y'all going to be going to any other neighborhoods? And if you are, if you want to just talk about that briefly. And same thing with you, Jeff, if you know of any other neighborhoods that y'all will be going to. Sorry, I forgot to give you guys that space.
Well, we have quite a few speaking engagements coming up. I don't have the list in front of me, but it's going to be pretty nonstop between now and Election Day. And, you know, we believe that it's important and vital to our community to get all the details and the information on this out there. I've done dozens of open records requests on this topic and compiled a tremendous amount of information on it, as well as transportation at mobilityaustin.com. You can really find out a deep dive on this stuff. And we feel that, like these community discussions, are very critically important, that people can get the access to this information and not a big fancy sales pitch pushed with millions of dollars in propaganda. I think if you learn the truth, you'll have a different perspective.
Okay, thank you. Tori, I don't know, you didn't get a chance to speak, but do you, if you have the locations off the top of your head or the organizations that you will be meeting with, if you want to tell us, if not, that's fine. We can go to Jeff.
Yes, for sure. So we will be speaking with the Cherryville Neighborhood Association, as well as the South Austin Neighborhood Association, Old West Austin. And then on Monday night, there's sort of a joint neighborhood association forum that's taking place. And that will have, I believe, 60 or 70 minutes for Q&A. So there's a lot of folks participating in that event. I think somewhere between the ballpark of 8,000 and 10,000 households that are a part of these joint neighborhood associations. So yeah, but in addition to those, you know, we're open to any opportunities to speak and come and present. So if there's any that you guys know about and would love to include us, we'd be happy to be a part of that.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Trevelyan.
And I think that we will probably all be at the same events. We're kind of joined at the hip. and I think if you go to the Transit Now website, it'll have all of the documents and all of the financials and basic information that you'd like, and it will also lay out where we're going to be. So I think you'll get very similar information from either of those accounts that you go to, because there'll be a point counterpointed at each of those.
Awesome, thank you. The last thing I want to say is we want to wish Solomon and his family well. He wasn't able to make it because of a family issue. That's all I have. Does anyone on the coalition have any closing remarks that you want to make?
I do. I would like to thank all the candidates for participating and coming on and talking with us and taking the time. And I want to thank to Susanna, Roy, Pat, and Alicia for doing this. I love you guys. I love working with you guys, and I hope we can continue our great work together. So that's all.
All right, I'm going to stop the live stream.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your